Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the CFL Live on TSN. I'm Darren Detish, and you know, at this point in time, we were scheduled to bring you the Toronto Argonauts in Baltimore to play the Stallions. But due to technical difficulties, we cannot bring you that game at this present time. We apologize for the inconvenience. As soon as we have the technical difficulties cleared up, we will take you to Baltimore for the contest. Once again, it is our deep regret that we can't bring you the football game at this particular point in time. We have alternative programming as we join this week in baseball.
And Mike Farragelli said he'd have a wild celebration on the sidelines. That is the first touchdown since 5 minutes 58 seconds of the first quarter of the Shreveport game, July 22nd.
Well, it was a great drive by Kent Austin. Baltimore opened with a field goal of theirs to begin this game, but then Toronto methodically came downfield, and Austin just a little swing pass to Mike Clements, a good read on the defense. They had all collapsed inside against trips coverage to the field, and that meant Mike Clements was uncovered, and what a solid drive. And hey, the monkey is off their back.
Absolutely, and a great pass and run play by Paul Mazzotti got the Argos deep into Baltimore territory and really set up the touchdown. The Argos on top in Baltimore, 7-3. Toronto Argonauts head coach Mike Farragelli is celebrating the team's first touchdown in a long, long time. And the Argos are on top in Baltimore, 7-3.
And it was a great goal line passing play. Watch Mike Clements. Now stop it right there. Here's Matt Goodwin. He has to cover Clements out of the backfield. But watch, Rob Creepo's going to come back inside and pick Goodwin off. Hey, legal, not legal, you be the judge. See, stop it there. Hey, Goodwin's packed to the left. He can't get out to get Mike Clements, and every team has it in their playbook. You get down near the goal line, you run those subtle little rubs or picks, and Creepo freed up Mike Clements for the touchdown.
Smiles all around in the Argo bench, but there's a long way to go in this football afternoon in Baltimore. Here's the Argo kickoff. Baker underneath it. Coming down to Mike Pringle. Pringle handing it off to Chris Wright. Wright tries the other side, and he's still on his feet as he crosses the 40-yard line. Grabbed by Tony Obilovich. 34-yard kickoff return that time. Pringle had a 63-yard kickoff return earlier. 5 plays to cover 83 yards for the Argo touchdown in a time of 3 minutes and 36 seconds. And Clemens on the 5-yard reception from Kent Austin. The Argo offense looked completely different from what we saw the last time.
Well, what they needed was to have a good start to this game, and they really got that on the opening drive. Now maybe they can kind of relax a little bit. I mean, the pressure is just, for so many weeks, has been building up to get some offensive production.
Here's Ham pitching to Pringle. Here's the way Baltimore lines up offensively with Tracy Ham at quarterback. Mike Withacombe is the left tackle this week. He was the starting center 1 week ago, so he's played almost every spot on the line. Well, at least 3 spots on the line. Receiving core with Clark and Shannon Culver outside, and Armstrong and Perry the inside receivers. Here's Ham on 2nd and 5. Can't find a receiver. Now he's got open field, and he'll have the first down. Tracy Ham forced out near the 40. Hang on, he turned it upfield for a couple more. Patrick Burke was over for a 30-yard run by Tracy Ham.
You know, it's a defense, and you concentrate on trying to stop Mike Pringle, the league's leading rusher, but then it's compounded because you got to worry about Tracy Ham. He's the 2nd leading rusher on the team with a little over 200 yards coming into this game, and so he sure gives you a lot of things to think about. And watch your love it when he breaks contain. I mean, there's so much pressure on the defense. When do you leave your man to come up and make the play? And you can see his numbers. You know, he makes such a large contribution to this offense himself.
Here's Ham on first down, and this is Mike Pringle trying the right side. Pringle hit hard as he hit the 25-yard line by Ken Walcott, number 29. Defensively, the Argos are happy to have Jeff Cummins back in the lineup with Leon Hatziano and Carlos Fowler along with Swift Birch up front. Tony Obilovich makes his first start at a linebacking spot, and Patrick Burke, number 19, will start on the right corner for the first time this season.
couple of key moves in the Argo defense. Tony Obilovich, #1. He's an import, and of course Bob Obilovich's nephew. They didn't play Reggie Barnes today, so that's how they get the extra import. And well, I'm really interested to see how Patrick Burke does out in the corner.
This is Pringle, and he's down inside the 20-yard line.
Mike Pringle, the ball carrier. Stopped by Don Wilson.
Pringle averaging 5.4 yards per carry.
Now, of all the leading running backs in the league, that is the best average of any of them. And, you know, when you consider that not only is he leading the league in rushing and leading it in carries, to have that kind of average is phenomenal.
This is another Baltimore first down as Ham looks to the end zone and overthrew his target, Chris Armstrong, number 81. Ham a little high and outside on the touchdown toss that time.
They call Chris Armstrong the playmaker here in Baltimore because his touchdown to catch ratio is so good, and he's got the inside position. That would have been 6, but Tracy Ham just probably the worst ball he's thrown so far today.
It'll be 2nd and 10 Stallions, threatening at the Argos 16-yard line. Ham will look to put it up again, this time under the cover, and he has Robert Drummond, number 2.
Ham's pass complete.
Drummond
to
wrapped
Robert
up by
Drummond.
Don Wilson, number 20.
And that's why Don Wilson is so valuable to this defense. I mean, a former defensive back converted into the strong side linebacker, and he's got the speed to stay with Robert Drummond all the way across the field. He gets some help from Mo Kelly to make the tackle short of the first down. But, you know, Donnie Wilson can give you that on defense. He's chipped in with 4 interceptions this year. And, boy, I tell you, you look at who's played well on this team, it sure has been Don Wilson.
And that's his second big play of the ball game. When Baltimore threatened earlier, Wilson came through and made a tackle in the backfield and forced Baltimore into a field goal situation earlier, and again here. This one a little shorter for Carlos Huerta. And he chips it through 2 in a row for the Stallions, who still trail the Argonauts by 1 point. Lots of scoring early as Don Matthews looks on from the sidelines in Baltimore.
CFL Live on TSN. Brought to you by All Sport. The new All Sports drink for athletes. All Sport. The game will never be the same. And by Bell Advantage Long Distance Services, from the Alliance of Canada's only full-service telecommunications companies.
Perfect afternoon at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. Don Matthews, head coach of the Stallions, led Baltimore to a 10-8 record. Or I should say 14-7 in '94. He was 10-8 with the Argos in 1990 when he was a head coach in Toronto. Mike Farragelli, last 4 years, the offensive coordinator at Bowling Green, and 2 wins and 6 losses as a CFL head coach. It's been a bit of a struggle at times.
Yeah, if he looks like he's breathing a little easier, it's because the Argonauts scored a touchdown on their first offensive series today.
The elusive touchdown has been recorded for the Argos, and on the return here for Toronto, Frank Adams stepping out across the 40-yard line. Forced out by Ken Watson. And until they got that touchdown, the Argos had 92 scoring drives that ended with a whole bunch of problems. Interceptions all over the place. A few field goals along the way, but nothing in the end zone for a long, long time. Back to July 22nd.
And I don't think anybody's felt the pressure more than Kent Austin. Obviously, you know, brought into Toronto with such high expectations, and, you know, he just has not played up to par. But on that opening drive, looked pretty good. Looked like the Austin of old.
A little razzle-dazzle in the backfield as Clemens pitches it off for Pat Coleman, and Coleman gets out across the 50-yard line. 20 yards to gain. Nifty little reverse to Pat Coleman, a speedster in his first game with the Toronto Argonauts.
Yeah, you know who made the big block was Kent Austin. Watch, okay, there's the pitch now. Watch this. Here comes Carter right there. Woo, cuts his legs out. Hey, this is a quarterback. Look at the technique. He must have sat in on one of those blocking meetings and learned how to do that. That's pretty good.
Argos first down as Austin goes long this time, far side. And a little too long, intending it for number 82, Pat Coleman. Covering on the play, Courtney Griffin.
Well, Pat Coleman's not a big guy, only 5'7" and 175 pounds, but what he's going to give this offense is a lot of speed. And initially, you know, some people say, well, that ball wasn't even close, but that's a purpose throw right there. You know, you bring the new guy in, and the other team hears about it, that this guy's fast and this and that. You got to stretch that defense early with him.
Argos have a 5-pack of receivers in now with Rob Crepo in and Dwayne Ford out on 2nd and 10. Here's Austin looking for his man on the far side, and that draws some penalty markers. Paul Mazzatti, the intended receiver, number 88, and there's a couple of markers down on the coverage on Mazzatti.
Courtney Griffin was covering on Mazzatti on that play. And, you know, sometimes what happens, Mazzatti really didn't work back to the quarterback very hard on that hook. And, you know, that's what almost created the contact. I think Courtney Griffin's thinking that, boy, this receiver's going to really keep going back to the quarterback. I got to go hard to try and make the play, but he just created that contact.
Forward pass interference. Baltimore number 25. First down.
Fans in Baltimore don't agree with George Black.
Well, see if you can see here, like, you know, Mazzatti, he stopped. He's not coming back to the quarterback, and Courtney Griffin just runs right into him.
So the Argos are set up with a first down at the 36. Austin releasing in a hurry for Coleman. Coleman cuts back into the middle and is dropped inside the 30-yard line. Dropped by Robert Pressbury. Kent Austin heads into week 9 in the CFL, still searching for his first win as an Argo. Bob Cronenberg is one of 2 imports to start in the Argos offensive line. Speedster Pat Coleman, who we've seen a couple of times already, making his CFL debut. Only Jock Climby among the active receivers has a touchdown pass in 1995. Mike Clemens will carry the football, and we've seen that a time or two already as well.
And I think that's been a good move for Toronto. Reggie Barnes isn't playing today. Let Mike Clemens have 60 minutes of football, and, you know, strategically, I think that's been a good move.
This is 2nd and a couple, and Mike Clemens has the first down across the 25-yard line. Baltimore defense has a fine front 4 with Carter Pressbury having 4 sacks each. Veteran O.J. Brigance is in the middle of the linebacking core with Goodwin and Gravely. And Courtney Griffin and Norris Thomas are the newest members of the secondary. Thomas getting his first starts at safety.
Baltimore's had a lot of injuries in that secondary. Griffin was the nickel back to begin the year. Now all of a sudden he's playing on the corner.
Markers are down as Austin goes to the sidelines for his old pal, Jeff Fairholm. Austin good on 3 of 4 for 78 yards prior to that play.
Flags down on the field.
And the offside goes against the Argonauts, as indicated by head referee George Black.
Offside. Toronto number 88. Repeat first down.
Yeah, those are drive killers, those kind of penalties to Paul Mazzatti. You know, as a receiver, you know, I've said this before, sometimes you leave the huddle and you got so much on your mind about coverage and that, you forget the snap count. But as a receiver, it really doesn't matter. You know, all you got to do is look back inside, and, you know, when a wide receiver or slot back goes offside, that's really mentally a bad mistake.
1st and 15 facing Austin, the Argos now. Mazzatti has it go right through his fingers. Fairholm was also in the area. Was Mazzatti the first pick?
Well, this is, you know, now all of a sudden you've got 2 plays in a row where Mazzatti should have made the mental mistake. He got the offside. Now, that's good. They are running a little rub right there with Fairholm, and, you know, maybe a little high, but more often than not, Paul Mazzatti makes those catches. It's been a tough drive for him.
Little heat on the quarterback, too.
Yeah, you got to stand in with Alfred Payton coming right in your face. You got Carter pushing up the middle. Austin's going to take some hits today. He knows that. This is a good front 4.
2nd and 15 from the 30. Austin over the middle. This one is picked off by Matt Goodwin. And Goodwin is held on to near the 22-yard line. Grabbed by Mike Clemens after the interception. So this drive ends in an interception. The 7th for Austin in his last 3 football games. Argos still hang on to a 1-point lead. It's 7-6 in Baltimore. Matt Goodwin's first interception of the year stalls another Argo drive. Toronto still on top 7-6. Not much zip on this, Leaf.
Well, it had to be a little longer and a little higher hump on the ball, trying to hit Mazzotti in that hook. And Baltimore, what they do really well is squeeze down those passing lanes down the middle of the field. They kind of force you to throw outside. Austin chose to attack inside.
Play action for Ham on 1st and 10. Tui Palutu coming out of the backfield, and he's out across the 30 to about the 31.
So you go back and you look at that interception from the end zone look, and you really see what, you know, I mean, this is the area you want to attack down in there with your receiver, but Austin throws short, and there's Goodwin right in there. See how they've squeezed off that lane inside, and, you know, there's no way to get it into Mazzotti. Brigance is coming over to help, and, you know, Baltimore says when they play zone, we're going to force you to throw outside. You come inside, we're going to be there to have some picks, and they got one early.
Interesting look in the Baltimore backfield now. In motion, 3 receivers to the near side. On 2nd and 3, this is Mike Pringle out of the backfield. He'll have the first down out across the 40. Stopped by Ken Walcott.
One of the things Steve Barato, the offensive coordinator, told me today, when they run what they call this scatter, they've got the fullback up on the line of scrimmage, and he said we'll be able to get that block against Toronto because they play it soft. See how everything's sealed? And he said we're going to bounce that play to the outside today. Well, first time they try it, they get great yardage with Pringle. He said teams see us in 2 double tight ends. They don't know how to cover it.
4 receivers to the far side this time, and again the handoff goes to Pringle. Cutting up the middle, he'll have another Baltimore first down. All the way down to the Argonaut 50, and stopped there by Tommy Henry. Another big gain on back-to-back beauties by Mike Pringle.
Yeah, watch, this is the counter. This is one of their favorite plays. Here comes Mike Withy, come right across, and a couple of steps to the left for Pringle. Now back all the way across the field. Good kickoff block. Look at Withycombe. He's right up through the hole with Pringle. And you know, you look at favorite plays, the counter that they just ran is one, and then they love to run that sprint draw.
Stallions with a first down at the Argonaut 50. Ham to the far side for Tui Palutu. And he's a tough guy to bring down. Maurice Kelly finally does so. It'll be another Stallion first down.
You know, John, when I look at Baltimore's offense, this team, as a whole team passing, has thrown the ball the fewest of any team in the CFL, and yet they're in first place. So how do they do it? Well, number one, they do it with a great running game, and then the passing complements the running game. They do it with good defense and good special teams. So you see, here's Tracy Ham. He's only thrown 4 balls, and, you know, we almost finished the first quarter.
Stallions with another first down, this time inside the 40-yard line. And to his left, barely got it away, open in the end zone, touchdown, Shannon Culver. In behind the entire Argo secondary. Ham on target with Culver for his 4th touchdown of the season.
And John, this is the other play. Okay, this is the scatter formation. They've just run Mike Pringle for success. Now they fake it to Pringle and run the bootleg. Now they got 3 receivers flooded down the field, and they're hoping Toronto makes a mistake in coverage, and they sure did. Shannon Culver's wide open. All he's got to make sure he does is catch the football. Sometimes those are the toughest catches to make.
When you're waiting for it, you're all alone in the end zone.
Boy, I'll tell you, I remember in Edmonton one time, I had all day to catch one. I got behind Larry Highbaugh, who nobody ever got behind Larry Highbaugh. They made a mistake, and it went right through my hands. I was so excited.
36-yard touchdown. Tracy Ham to Shannon Culver.
Well, the tough thing about the scatter formation as a defense is, you know, like, what do you do? Like, look, hey, all 4 guys are right here in the backfield. There they go. Now, here's Culver right there in the middle. You follow him down the field like, boom. Now, Armstrong stops. Clark goes to the outside, and nobody picks up Culver deep. Hey, look at this. He's thinking, boy, don't drop it. Don't drop it. He made the catch.
Ham to Culver, and the Stallions are back on top. It's 13-7 in Baltimore. Back live in Baltimore, where the Stallions lead 13-7 on the Argos.
There's Steve Barato, the offensive coordinator, in the middle of your picture. And, you know, he told me before the game, he says, we're going to give Toronto a real diet of a lot of different looks and, you know, a lot of different plays off same looks, you know. So the scatter formation already got him a great run with Pringle for a first down. They get the easy touchdown to Culver. And Tracy Ham, you know, to his credit, picked out the right guy and threw it deep enough. That's Sean Jones on the other side, the backup quarterback. There's Culver, 4th touchdown of the year for him. They call him Skinny, rightfully so. He's not a very big guy, but he's got lots of speed.
And he was in behind everyone in the end zone. Ready to kick off the second quarter in Baltimore. Coming down at the 25 to Pat Coleman. And he's out near the 40-yard line and just across. 15-yard return after a 49-yard punt. Let's check in with Darren at CFL Control.
Thanks very much, John. It's a busy day indeed in the world of sports. The Toronto Blue Jays continuing their series with the Chicago White Sox. How about a little last-minute heroics? The Blue Jays in the bottom of the 9th. Molly, base hit, left center field. He went 4 for 4 on the day. That plates the winning run. The Blue Jays pull it out. 3-2 is the final. Let's get back to Baltimore.
Here's the Argo first down, and Mike Clemens looked to be stopped. He's up and rolling again. What a brilliant run for Mike Clemens. Stopped by Charles Anthony. I thought he was stopped before he even got rolling there, but he turns it into a first down run.
And I think the Argonauts have made a real strong statement when they said, hey, we're not going to have any more tandem running backs. No more Reggie Barnes and Mike Clemens for now. Pinball's the guy that can really explode and break one for us, and that's the kind of guy we need in our offense. And, you know, I think Pinball senses that too, and he knows that they're counting on him for a big game today.
Argos on first down. Fairholm on the far side on the receiving end of the toss from Kent Austin.
To Jeff Fairholm.
Numbers from the opening quarter, 13-7 on the scoreboard. And yards rushing for the Stallions, 74. The turnover, a little costly for the Argos, although they did drive for 1 touchdown in the game rather impressively and trail by 6 right now. On 2nd and 4, Austin in trouble. He can't get away. Elford Payton running down Kent Austin from behind.
And John, one of the problem areas for the Argonauts today offensively is going to be Mike Dumoresque, the right tackle, when he's on the short side of the field, because that means he's going to have Elford Payton, who's got 11 sacks and now 12. Dumoresque trying to slide out, but Payton, you know, it's just too much speed. What? This is just a speed rush. Sorry, I circled the wrong guy, but Payton just inside there. You see the speed to the outside, and boom, Austin doesn't have a chance. But, you know, I look at certain matchups throughout the course of a game that may affect the outcome, and I think Dumoresque and Elford Payton's going to be one to watch.
Terry Baker standing at his 35. Chris Wright, the lone man back for the Stallions. Wright takes it near the 25-yard line, and this is going to be a great run. Baker has to get over to try and make a tackle. He slowed him down, and Wright will be run out of bounds by Heron Tate. And the big flip for Chris Wright. This guy has had an outstanding rookie season in the CFL. 50-yard return after a 36-yard punt.
Well, you know, he's the #1 punt returner in the league right now, and this shows you why. I mean, he gets up through that gap so quickly, and boy, is he ever exciting. And this is why you can play conservative offense. And how about this move? Now, you know, most guys save this for when they get a touchdown, but not Chris Wright. He says, hey, I'll just do it right now and get it over with early.
Didn't get all his points on the landing, though, late.
Well, it's still pretty good landing.
From the 35, it's first down, and here comes Mike Pringle again. Hurdling over one tackler, that was Obilovich. Might have gotten a little piece of him, and that slowed him down, but the Stallions are really on the move. Another first down.
Well, you got to love the makeup of this football team. They play good defense. They have great kick returners like Wright, good kickers, Flaherty, Josh Miller. So then on offense, when you've got the great running game, I mean, you can have a high percentage offense if you don't take a lot of chances. Ham doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, only 8 so far in 9 games. So, I mean, the blend on this team is really nice.
First and 10, Baltimore inside the Argo 25. Pringle again, and he's slowed down from behind this time. Into a heap of Argonauts there. Swift Birch is in the neighborhood, so is Carlos Fowler. And Pringle never really got on track that time.
And I think you look at people on Toronto's defense that have to have big games today, and I think you look at Calvin Tiggle and say, you know, you got to look to somebody to slow down Mike Pringle, and, you know, tackle to tackle. I think Tiggle's got to be the guy.
Second and a bunch facing Ham as he looks over the middle, has Culver again down to the 5-yard line. Shannon Culver's second big catch of the ball game. Don Wilson saved the touchdown.
You know, this is Patrick Burke on the corner. Here's Culver. Now watch the good push deep, and then he brings it hard across the middle on a good angle. You know, this is how you see if a receiver's good or not. You don't drift it upfield. He doesn't drift it upfield, and that's a good throw by Tracy. That's the best ball he's thrown today.
Stallions first and goal to go at the Toronto 5. Ham with time. Now it evaporates. Ham escapes. Still looking in the end zone, and he one-hopped that for Chris Armstrong. He bought a lot of extra time, but still couldn't find a receiver.
Well, I tell you, it's all the years we've watched Tracy Ham play. You know, at least 5 times a year, you just look at him and say, how in the world did he ever get out of that mess? And I mean, I'm almost surprised he didn't get the touchdown. His receivers had so much time. But Toronto looked like they had him dead, and all of a sudden he gets a second chance. He's puffing a little bit there.
Buying a little breathing time here somehow or other. Second and goal. Stallions at the Argo 5. Baltimore leading 13-7. Hand from the shotgun. Looks to the other side now. Too high. And there's a penalty marker away from the intended receiver, Reggie Perry.
Well, the problem right now is, you know, they got heat the last play, and now you get no heat on Tracy Ham on this one. And, you know, for the receivers to just run around all over the field, you know, sooner or later you're going to have this happen. And I think Toronto's going to get called for contact.
Illegal contact on an eligible receiver, Toronto number 19. First down.
That's Patrick Burke. This has been a tough series for Burke.
Well, he had pretty good coverage on that into Culver, but you know, here it is right down there, and you just can't expect you to stay with your man that long. And although they weren't even throwing to him, Burke gets called for it because he did create the contact.
Baltimore first and goal to go now at the 2.5-yard line as Ham hands out to Pringle. And I'm not so sure he's into the end zone. Argos are saying he lost the ball down there.
Now, the way everybody scrambled around, it looked like he did lose it when he came over the top, but I think number 61, John James, picked it up, the left guard. That's a long way to jump when you go up over the top. You know, usually you save that for about the 1-yard line, but there you see, I think the ball definitely comes loose.
Ooh, and he lands on his noggin. Not enough hang time on this.
Well, he takes off from about the 4-yard line.
He's down to the 1. Argos did lose, the Stallions did lose the ball, or at least Pringle did, but Baltimore recovered. Second and goal to go from the 1-yard line. Ham, good fake, and it's a waltz into the end zone. Second rushing touchdown of the season for Tracy Ham, and he sure sold it on a great fake.
Yeah, he really did, and you know who he got? He got Calvin Tiggle, the middle linebacker. I mean, here's Tiggle, all he's thinking is Pringle, but then Ham just bounces it to the outside. I mean, they almost collide with the handoff. It's so good. I mean, that's real. And Donnie Wilson gets sucked in as the outside linebacker, and that's tough. That's almost impossible play to cover.
Pretty tough to keep a team like this out of the end zone with 3 cracks at it from 2.5 yards.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's an almost impossible task. Baltimore in short yardage doesn't get stopped too many times.
Back-to-back touchdowns for the Stallions, who widen their margin on the Argonauts on a great afternoon for football in Baltimore.
42 seconds remaining in the second quarter.
CFL Live, brought to you in part by 3M Canada, imagining the unthinkable and developing the unknown. That's 3M Innovation at Work.
Tracy Ham into the end zone and his second rushing touchdown of the season, giving Baltimore a 20-7 lead on the Argos.
Yeah, like David Allen's a great play faker, and so is Tracy Ham. Watch the fake right here. This is beautiful. Now look right here. Look. See, Donnie Wilson's head's coming right in here, but the ball is right behind Pringle. Nobody can see the ball, so you watch what happens. Wilson makes a nice tackle, but he's got the wrong guy.
Wrong guy.
You know, like, hey, listen, in all fairness, when you're down in the goal line against this kind of a team that runs the ball so well, as the defense, you've got to be an aggressive. And I mean, if you make a mistake, it's got to be an aggressive mistake, and that's what Toronto did. And, you know, nobody should fault on that play. That's just a great play fake.
This is Mike Clemens. And there's nowhere to go for the pinball near the 30-yard line. 10-yard return after a 55-yard kickoff. And here's the Stallions scoring drive. 7 plays to cover 35 yards. A great return set it up. And Tracy Ham on a 1-yard rush.
Yeah, it's been a good first half for these teams. Both offenses seem to be in gear. And, well, you look back almost a year ago, August 20th, 1994, the Argonauts came in here and they beat the Baltimore Stallions 31-24 in front of 41,000 people. Now, you and I had the opportunity to do that game, and Toronto played a flawless game. But you know what? The players come in here, they remember that. Most, you know, the guys that were there a year ago, and, you know, they come into this Memorial Stadium with a good feeling, saying, you know, we could be competitive on this field. And, you know, you get the feeling that Toronto's really ready to play today, but so is Baltimore.
Matt Goodwin, the injured Baltimore Stallion. Maybe we can see what happened to number 39 here on the tackle on Clemens. Rammed that shoulder into the turf, and then one of his own players over the top.
Of course, Urban. Remember him from Hamilton days and Toronto days. He's here in Baltimore now as the nickelback. They've got a lot of injuries. Carl Anthony gone for the year. And Lester Smith, their all-star safety, gone.
Argos first and 10 from the 30. A little play action for Austin. And it was O.J. Brigance closing in on the Argo quarterback.
Bob Abilovich, the Toronto general manager, sitting up in your press box here, must just cringe when he sees that, because when he was the head coach of the BC Lions, he brought O.J. Brigance into the league. Young linebacker out of Rice, and Obi took a real chance with him as a rookie, and, you know, his game has just gotten better and better every year.
Mazzotti to the near side. Pat Coleman flanks to the far side of the field with 2 other receivers on 2nd and 11 for Austin. Feeds it off for Dwayne Ford, and Ford can't get to the first down. Looked like it was opening up, but O.J. Brigance was there one more time, number 57, celebrating in the Stallions defense.
That's good play, you know, by O.J. Brigance, 2 in a row, and hey, he's fired up. Look at this. It's a new move. I don't quite know what it is, but
there's no music either.
Oh, it's one of these karate things.
That's right, the deep-back for the Stallions.
So on 3rd down, Baker forced to kick it away.
That was O.J. Brigance series, that one.
Yeah, he made both plays to force the Argos into a 3rd down punting situation. Not too deep, Chris Wright. Great return last time, draws a penalty, and another super return for Wright here. Baker slows him down, and Tate up behind him to throw him off balance. That was almost a replay of the last one, where Baker got over to slow him down a bit, and Tate got him from behind.
Now, you get the feeling that this guy, Chris Wright, likes to return punts. I mean, he's having a good time. This one may be coming back.
No yards. Toronto number 17. Penalty is declined.
Yes, sir.
First down, Baltimore.
56-yard return, and Chris Wright sets up the Stallions one more time. They're hard to stop in Baltimore. It's 20-7. Back-to-back brilliant punt returns for Chris Wright, number 28 for the Stallions, has Baltimore knocking at the door one more time. This is a 56-yarder setting Baltimore up at the Argo 15.
Well, this guy, I mean, when he sees the opening, I mean, he's got such a terrific burst to get up and through it. And, you know, the good ones just have that sixth sense, and he's a good one.
3 receivers to the near side on 1st down, and Pringle gets the call. He's got 4 yards at least. And Argos suggests that it's a turnover down there. And that's what it's being ruled. Leon Hatziano comes up with a football, number 44. Big break for the Argos after that outstanding punt return.
Well, you look at big plays. I mean, it's 20-7 for Baltimore. They get the punt return, and now they're set up, and looks like they could go in again. But Carlos Fowler makes the hit. The ball comes loose, and Leon Hatziano, there it is, right into his hands. And they get the fumble recovery. So that's, you know, you talk about big plays. Baltimore's had 5 big plays in a quarter and a half, and, you know, now finally Toronto gets one themselves.
And 3 of those big plays definitely on special teams. The 2 returns by Wright.
Well, they've had 3 big kick returns. They've had an interception and then the big Tolbert touchdown, which I think was a big play.
Argos on first down. Mike Clemens makes the catch, and he has nowhere to go after pulling it in. Tracy Gravely made the tackle, number 7.
Well, I love the way Tracy Gravely plays. He's the leader on this team in tackles with 41, now 42. But, you know, he's a converted defensive back to that strong side linebacker position. But the thing with him is he's strong enough in the upper body to come up and play the run, and he gives you the speed and pass coverage. So, I mean, you get the best of both worlds with Tracy Gravely.
Mike Clemens grabbed 4. This is 2nd and 6, Toronto. Austin has Jock Kleine, and that's very close to a first down. It should be for the Argos. Stopped by O.J. Brigance. It will be a Toronto first down.
Those are the numbers. Kleime's been hurt this year. He missed 3 games in a row with assorted injuries, and you know, he may be the smoothest receiver in the Argo receiving corps, getting open. He's got great cuts, good speed, and you know, I think for the Argonauts to function, they have to find a way to get him the ball a little bit more.
He's the only Argo starting receiver to have caught a touchdown pass this season. Little play action fake by Austin to his right. Far side, he has Jeff Fairholm, number 18.
And these are good plays for Ken Austin. I mean, you start deep in your own territory. I mean, you want to try and pick up at least a few first downs to reestablish some sort of field position. And, you know, he's a dump one off to Kleine, dump one off to Clements, and now on the bootleg, it's, I mean, short pass, you only get 8 yards, but it's high percentage, and you know, that's the kind of thing that'll give his offense a little more confidence if they can keep the ball for a while.
7 yards for Fairholm, 2nd and 3 Argos just across the 30-yard line. Toronto trailing, and Mike Clemens comes up short of the first down. Ran into Robert Pressbury, number 72. Pressbury, another solid season, 4 sacks to his credit.
Well, when you look at defenses, the trend really today is to have those 2 big pluggers up the middle, and does Baltimore ever have a couple of good ones in Robert Pressbury and Gerald Bayless, and then to have the speed coming off the corners, either linebackers or smaller rush ends, and Baltimore's front 4 really gives you that with Carter and Payton on the outside, and then the 2 big guys, Pressbury and Bayless, pushing that pocket from the middle.
Pressbury has missed the last 2 games with a hamstring injury. Looks to be rather healthy here this afternoon as Baker stands in again near his 20-yard line this time.
Well, John, Baltimore lost 2 games in a row and then finally regrouped and beat Memphis 16-13 a week ago. So, you know, they've been kind of on a bad run here, but only the first half of this ball game, it looks like they've had a good week of work and said, hey, let's get it back on track because they look pretty solid.
Argos call a timeout, and they've changed their mind after seeing how far they need to go on 3rd down. So they're going gunning for it. 3rd down, less than a yard to go. Deep inside Toronto territory, Leaf, inside the 35.
Well, it's an offensive line that's really going to have to push out some big guys to pick this one up.
Gutsy call. Here's Mike Clemens. He's got the first down and lots more out near the 45. Stopped by Tracy Gravely one more time.
Stopped by Tracy Gravely.
Well, John, you have to love the way Pinball Clements is running with the football today. I mean, he's a small guy, obviously 5'6", about 175 pounds, but he is really accelerating when he gets into that hole. And, of course, on that 3rd down, you know the sense of urgency is there. He just blasted off on that one.
Faragelli makes a great coaching decision because it worked, right? 3rd down, less than a yard to go. Now the Argos have a first down as the drive continues. Kleine makes the catch and steps out of bounds. Short of a first down, Ken Watson covering on Jock Kleine.
Pretty good offense here by Ken Austin. You know, he's reading coverages, and Baltimore right now is very willing to stay off the receivers. They got a 13-point lead, so there you see it, short side of the field. Watson, you know, just drifting back in zone, very willing to let Kleine catch balls in front of him. But these are good first down plays. Again now, 2nd and 3.
Well, maybe 2nd and 4. Here's the pitch. Mike Clemens has another Argo first down. He's got 5 yards, and Gravely again on the tackle.
Mike Clemens, the ball carrier, stopped by Tracy Gravely.
Well, Mike Clements hasn't carried the ball a lot, only had a little over 50 carries coming into this game, but his average is really high at 5.7, and you see the numbers there, and you know, he's up over 5 yards a carry in this first half, so he's really getting the job done.
You gotta love this guy. Set the CFL record for all-purpose yards in 1990. Austin on target again, and not much running room after the catch is made.
You know, John, another telecast, when they run that wide receiver screen, I always say you got to get the block at the point of attack. Well, you're going to see a great look at it. Look at Climby come out here on Irvin Smith, and then you just come back inside. But, you know, sometimes it's your slot back that has to get that first block. And here he takes Irvin Smith to the outside, and now it's up to Coleman to make some yardage. But that's good block.
Coleman grabs a couple. This is 2nd and 8. Austin in trouble, and he's down. Alfred Payton, number 56. 2nd sack of the ball game. 13th of the season.
And you know, for Mike Dumoresque, this is too much to ask. I think they're going to have to help him out. Here comes Payton again, and this isn't fancy. He knows he can beat him with speed, so he just starts going to the outside, and Dumoresque loses the feet, drops the head, and, you know, hey, he's going to have a long afternoon. I think at some point Dwayne Ford's going to have to come over and help him out a little bit, because now Payton's got 2 sacks already. Up to 13.
Another great season for number 56 of the Stallions. Here's Baker. Aiming it for the far side. Wright waits for it at the 20, and again flags her down. Wright is brought down in a hurry this time.
Flags down.
Looked like the Argos might have overrun the coverage. We'll sort it out when we return to Memorial Stadium, Baltimore.
Randolph back in the pen. What's up, Paul?
We're going to take it to the house.
That's the story so far in Baltimore. Alfred Payton with a couple of quarterback sacks already.
Got the hand. Got the hand. It's going to be a big day for me today, baby. Big day.
Already is a big day for Alfred. There was a penalty as we took a break from Baltimore, but it has been waved off. A no yards call, but the player was pushed into the 5-yard area, so no penalty assessed. It'll be first down.
You know, you look at Alfred Payton there, a couple of sacks now, 13 on the year, and that ties him with Tim Cofield from Memphis. So, the way he's going, he has a chance to take the lead in that category outright today.
Tracy Ham and the Stallions first down. Here's Mike Pringle again. In behind John James and Mike Withacombe for a couple of yards.
Well, when you look at Baltimore's offense, sooner or later a play I'm sure you're going to see is they'd fake, you know, Tui Paludu or Robert Drummond lead so well for Mike Pringle that you're going to just see a little play fake and sneak that fullback out in the flat. And for Toronto, you know, that's going to be a tough one to cover. And boy, sooner or later you're going to see that one.
Drummond is kind of the other running back in the scheme of things as far as Baltimore is concerned. Here's 2nd down, and Pringle makes the catch, gets up, and he's very close to a first down.
Once again, it was Donnie Wilson, too, from that strong side linebacker. Has the speed to sit back and watch things develop and then react when the ball's in the air. There's Wilson. He sees it now and comes up, and Pringle's down on the ground. He's going to stop him well short of the first down. You know, defensively, the Toronto Argonauts have had a solid year. The record wouldn't indicate that, but, you know, this group ranked 4th in the league coming into today's game has really played probably much better than Toronto coaches Dennis Meyer and Joe Moss thought they would.
On 3rd and 1, the Stallions will kick it away. Josh Miller high, coming down to Mike Clemens at the 25. Little stutter step for the pinball, and a pile of Stallions surrounded him, led by Alvin Walton. 4 yards on the return into the final 2 minutes of the first half in Baltimore.
Welcome back to CFL Control. Coming up at McDonald's halftime, we've got a loaded show for you. How about Jeff Garcia getting the start tonight for the Calgary Stampeders? They will take on the Birmingham Barracudas. We'll preview that contest. We'll also get you set for Shreveport and BC. Tomorrow, we will take you to Edmonton, Commonwealth Stadium. The Ottawa Rough Riders are in town. We'll also have a preview of that game. Let's head back to Memorial Stadium for Leaf and John.
Baltimore on top 20-7 as we tick down the final 2 minutes of the opening half.
How about those Hamilton Tiger Cats last night?
Overtime, and it was Paul Osbaldiston with a game-winning field goal. 36-33 over the Blue Bombers.
Yeah. Hamilton on a nice roll. Austin's on a pretty good roll in this first half. Numbers, the points don't indicate how well he's played.
Austin won't be able to outrun the charge this time. On first down, Alfred Payton gets to him again.
Boy, this is just
that a sack? Is he behind the line? I think so.
That's close. It's going to be close. I think he gets the sack out of here, but you know, this is the perfect blend that I talk about. I mean, you get the push up the middle, so as a quarterback, you know, they hear it coming from the outside again and coming from the middle up here. I mean, for Austin, all of a sudden, this is what they want to do. They love to flush him out of the pocket because you can't run very fast. He's a easy guy to catch.
Has to be a sack because Austin is facing second down and 10.5 yards to go as he finds Paul Masadi for 5.
See, you know, as a defense, when you want to attack Baltimore, you want to attack them on first down and get positive yardage. Once again now, there it is, a little wide receiver screen. No, it's a good call to try and get 10 yards on second down, but when you play, you really play into Baltimore's hands when you're second and long. And Toronto's success today is when they've been in 2nd and 5 or less, they've been able to function. See, that's a good first down play. It's a tough second down play.
Here's Baker standing inside his 25. Chris Rice, who's been sensational here so far this afternoon, waits near his 30. Baker just barely got it away, and this is a boomer. Wright won't have a play on it. Baker knocks it out of bounds near the 20-yard line. And that was Matt Goodwin, who was a block kick specialist coming through, and Baker just barely got it away.
He really is. He blocked 4 of them last year, 3 for touchdowns. Watch, he comes right up the gut on the stunt, and you know, I mean, you're talking inches there. He probably had it. He just had to go a little more to the outside. Didn't realize that Baker was kicking it to the sideline. Thought he was kicking it straight downfield. It's a nice job of Terry Baker to concentrate, because as a punter, you know, you feel that rush coming. He knew he had to get it away in a hurry.
And number 39 for the Stallions would be circled in any kind of preparation.
I'll tell you, all week long, they have had somebody wear 39 everyday practices because they have to find out where he is. They missed him still.
Nowhere to go for Tracy Ham. Leon Hatzianu through on the Stallion quarterback. Tracy's done a good job of directing the Baltimore offense.
He's done a nice job of scrambling when he's had to today as well. He had one long run, and there's the same old story. You know, you almost close out the first half. They're ahead 20-7. He's only thrown 9 balls. I mean, that's a luxury for a quarterback.
This is 2nd and 9, facing Ham now. He looks to put it up into heavy coverage. Adams was covering on Chris Armstrong. Went over the top. Fans were looking for a flag. Not on that one. 42 seconds to halftime.
One of the things you have to love about Baltimore, I mean, there's a lot of things to love, but you got to love this offensive line up here. These big guys, look at the job they do giving Ham all kinds of time to throw. Toronto runs a stunt. They pick it up perfectly, stay with their man. I mean, look at this. I mean, heck, look, everything. All you got to do, you can step up, you can run, you can throw, you can do anything you want. When you get that kind of protection, there's a lot of good things to like about Baltimore, and boy, I think you start with that offensive line.
Josh Miller has been booming some punts this afternoon. Waiting for the Argos is Pat Coleman and Pinball Clemens. He comes to the pinball. And a big opening for number 31. Out across the 45, stopped by Robert Drummond. 20-yard return, and Kent Austin has about 23 seconds to put a couple of points on the board before halftime. 11 of 14 for 128. 1 touchdown, and then one of those ugly ones, an interception.
Well, I think, you know, they've run the ball better than normal today, has Toronto, but still it will come down to whether Austin can, you know, beat this Baltimore secondary. And so far he's had a lot of pass rush in his face to try and do it.
Argos just across their own 45. Austin has been getting some heat. He barely got it away to Mike Clemens that time, and Clemens was wrapped up by Gerald Bayless before he had a chance.
John, you know how I measure a defensive tackle? You know, I measure him like, he's on the nose right here, and watch, he just feels the screen and slides out and makes the play. But I measure a defensive tackle by what kind of penetration does he get, and he makes the play here. And so far, Bayless has had
timeout,
tackles
Baltimore.
for losses, and that's how you say, is a tackle any good? Can he get upfield? This guy can get upfield.
And he's been pretty good for a long time with Don Matthews and a couple of stops along the trail.
Well,
9 years in the CFL.
When Matthews took this team over, you know, he knew the ingredients that he needed right off the bat, and he got Bayless as a free agent from Saskatchewan, and he'd just come off a Defensive Player of the Year kind of year, and so all of a sudden, there he is. You know, here he is right here. It's just something you learn. He sees the back going out, and he slides out. Watch him. He grabs Pinball Clements, you know, and it's just something you learn. You say, oh, I'm getting in here too easily. So you feel it, and you sneak back out. And
Lots of 4, 2nd and 14 with time ticking down. 22 seconds to go. Rob Grifo is in, makes the catch, and he'll have the first down, but there's a marker in the area. Matt Goodwin in on the tackle on Rob Grifo.
Now, once again, Alfred Payton gave Austin a good shot when he let that ball go. Austin's going to feel this game today because he's taken a lot of hits already in one half of football.
Sacked 3 times already by Alfred Payton.
That probably hit hard about 3 or 4 other times. Payton senses it too, you know. He knows.
Procedure, Toronto number 18. Repeat second down.
He can feel it, you know, if he gets that matchup with Dumaresque today. Payton's saying, well, boy, I might get a pretty good cushion on Tim Caulfield for that sack lead.
In the sack race, yes.
Yeah. He knows if he works a little extra hard today, he's going to have an outstanding afternoon. There's the matchup again.
Second and a whole bunch. And Pinball gets the call. Here's Mike Clemens with flags everywhere on the field. Still standing. And he rolls across the 55-yard line. Matt Goodwin over to make the tackle. I would think this one is likely coming back. Tracy Gravely also in on the play.
Well, it looked like Baltimore jumped. Now, whether they were drawn off will be the question.
Just 9 seconds till halftime.
Yeah, it is offside on Baltimore. So now you got 9 seconds to go. You know, you're 1 first down away, 1 throw away from maybe getting Terry Baker in for a field goal.
Offside, Baltimore number 54. Penalties declined. 3rd down.
So now what Austin has to be thinking, okay, I need about 12 yards to give Baker a shot at a field goal here. So let's see if we can maybe run a hook or a curl to one of my inside guys, or Baltimore often will give you the sideline on the out.
Ball spotted right on the 55-yard line. 3rd down and a couple to go, but this might even be the last play. Here's Austin to his right. And he's out of bounds on the far side. That's Pat Coleman.
And it took too long.
Took too long. Out of time already. So Coleman makes the catch, but the Argos don't get a chance to try the field goal. The good news is Mike Faragelli's Argos have scored the long-awaited touchdown, but still trail by 13 as we send you back to Darren and McDonald's halftime show.
McDonald's Halftime, presented by your local McDonald's restaurant. Here's Darren Detition.
Welcome to McDonald's Halftime. Busy day in the CFL as this is just one of 4 games on the schedule. Now, yesterday on this very show, you heard Doug Flutie speak out about his injured elbow and how at this present time the Stamps have adopted a wait-and-see attitude until the final test results are in and a game plan is formulated. In the meantime, second-year quarterback Jeff Garcia gets the start tonight against Birmingham. Flutie will probably dress and watch from the sidelines, but it's not what Birmingham had anticipated. They had 10,000 T-shirts printed up billing the game as the rematch. Donegan versus Flutie. That obviously won't happen, but don't underestimate Garcia's ability.
It's something that I've looked forward to pretty much all my life. This is the direction that I wanted to be headed. I hate to see it at the stake of what Doug's going through, but it's my opportunity to step in, and hopefully I can do some good things and just carry this team, just continue to take it where Doug left off, and until he comes back.
In fairness to Doug, he has been the outstanding player in our league for 4 years, and other players have been overshadowed. Now If it's for 1 game, 2 games, or 3 games, it's their opportunity to grind the limelight.
I've watched Doug over the last year and a half and tried to see what he does, both physically and mentally, and Coach Huffnagel's not really changing much. He's keeping it the same. It's something that we work on during practice, and we're just going to continue to go out and do the things that we do best.
Rejuvenated physically after facing the toughest part of their schedule, the BC Lions are home to the Shreveport Pirates, who last year only won 3 games all season. This year, they've already equaled that feat. They're coming off a very impressive win over the Ottawa Rough Riders. Billy Joe Tolliver is adapting to the Canadian game. He has now tossed for over 1,700 yards. By no means are the Pirates the league's patsies anymore. As for the Lions, they are healthy and hungry.
We've got to stay in the hunt for the playoff, and we have to continue to win and hope that we don't get any more people hurt. You know, we played without 6 of our starters against Winnipeg, so, you know, that's not an easy chore against any of these teams up here, really.
Everybody's coming back off a few little nicks and bruises. You know, we just had that road trip and everything, and, you know, I think we're kind of getting ourselves back together. You know, Darren's back out playing again, and I think we'll be pretty healthy and ready to go Saturday.
I mean, anytime you play 3 games in 9 days, guys are going to get hurt and get tired, and I guess that was pretty obvious in the way we played against Winnipeg. But the guys are back now. I think Darren's the only questionable one, so we're ready to go.
And finally this evening, the San Antonio Texans with Mike Saunders and Troy Mills in the backfield are in Memphis. The Mad Dogs still without Damon Allen and Eddie Brown, but their defense extremely formidable. Both teams 4-5, tied for that final playoff berth in the South Division. We'll take a short break, but when McDonald's halftime continues, Gord Miller and Glenn Suter will give us their thoughts on our game tomorrow between the Edmonton Eskimos and the Ottawa Rough Riders. But as we go, here's a look at some of Jeff Garcia's collegiate statistics. Stay tuned. Welcome back to McDonald's Halftime. You know, through the first half of the CFL season, the Stamps, Lions, and Eskimos have all been jockeying for position for top spots in the North. Now Hamilton, with 4th straight victories, is making its presence felt. Tomorrow, the Eskimos will try and move 1 step ahead of the Tabbies with a win over the struggling Ottawa Rough Riders. With their thoughts on the game, here is Gord Miller and Glenn Suter in Edmonton.
Thanks very much, Darren. Glenn, you and I saw a great football game last night in Winnipeg as Paulus Balderson kicked a field goal in the final play of overtime to give the Ticats the win over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Suffice to say, though, if the beleaguered and exhausted Ottawa Rough Riders are this close tomorrow with the Edmonton Eskimos, we'll have quite a story.
Well, Ottawa has their work cut out for them. This is their 3rd game in 9 days. It's a tough part of the schedule for them, and they're coming into Commonwealth to play the Edmonton Eskimos at home. That's always tough anyway.
Now, Ottawa did beat Edmonton a couple of weeks ago with Sammy Garza at the controls, and Garza gets the start again for Ottawa this week.
That's right. And talking to Ron Lancaster, Sammy Garza knows this football team. Ron says there's nothing that he can do that's going to surprise Garza, so he's the best guy for the start if Ottawa wants a chance to win this game.
Now, for the Edmonton Eskimos, one change of note. Lucius Floyd is out of the lineup for Edmonton with an ankle injury, so Eric Blount draws in.
Eric Blount, Ron Lancaster says, was even with Lucius Floyd in training camp. He loves what this guy can do. He's a lot like Lucius coming out of the backfield. He's got great hands, so real confident that he can do the job.
Now, and everyone in the Northern Division is taking a look at what's happening at the top, and the Edmonton Eskimos are no different as the Calgary Stampeders are still on top, but with Doug Flutie injured, I think everyone's getting the sense that things are a lot more wide open.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how Calgary will respond. I mean, playing with a 30-point lead like Doug Flutie can give you is one thing, but now the defense is going to have to play in some closer games, so it'll be interesting to see how Calgary responds without their star quarterback.
Well, no one will be more interested to see that than the Edmonton Eskimos, who, of course, have their big back-to-back with Calgary coming up after their game with Ottawa tomorrow. Now let's go back to CFL Control and Darren Detition.
Thanks very much, gentlemen. We're going to take another break here, but when we return, we will review our game story, and John and Leaf will give us their first half thoughts. Stay tuned. McDonald's Halftime continues in a moment.
CFL Legends, brought to you by McDonald's. He holds scores of Toronto Argonaut rushing and receiving records. More on Dick Shadow in a moment. Dick Shadow played for the Argonauts from 1954 to 1965. Upon his retirement in '65, he'd scored more touchdowns, caught more passes, and accounted for more offensive yardage than any other player in the history of Canadian football. Many of his Argonaut records still stand, including most career touchdowns and most career rushing yards. You can see more on Dick Shadow and other CFL legends at the Canadian Football Hall of Fame in Hamilton. McDonald's Halftime, brought to you by your local McDonald's restaurant.
Welcome back to McDonald's Halftime. Boy, the Baltimore Stallions look extremely sharp offensively, and Chris Wright was leading the way, giving him instant field position every time he touched the ball. 3 punt returns for 113 yards. You know, Wright and Pringle came into this contest number 2 and 3, respectively, in the CFL in all-purpose yardage. Pringle with 139. The Argos offense finally got itself an offensive touchdown. But guess what? They're down by almost 2 TDs. Let's go back to Baltimore as John and Leaf are standing by. And, guys, some good news for the Argos, but they're in tough today.
Well, the good news is they finally got the elusive touchdown, Darren, but they're playing a pretty good defensive ball club. And after that drive, Kent Austin has stalled quite a bit.
Yeah, you know, it's a tough defense for Austin to throw against because they really make you throw outside. And, you know, it seems like he hasn't wanted to throw outside that much. But, you know, what I like, at least for Toronto this afternoon, they've had some sort of rushing game going. And, you know, Mike Pringle hasn't totally run over them. In fact, you know, you look at this, Clements and Pringle are right even in rushing yards and same carries. So, you know, for Toronto, that's encouraging. For Baltimore, they're tough. I mean, this is a team, when they get a lead, they protect it really well. And I think, although it's only 13 points, it's still going to be tough for Toronto on this one.
Yeah, Kent Austin has to come out and engineer an early drive to get the Argos right back into the ball game. Currently, it's 20-7, and that's halftime from Baltimore.
20-7, it's halftime in Baltimore, and the Argos and the Stallions are heading back out onto the football field at Memorial Stadium. Toronto trying to turn things around after losing 3 in a row and seeking their 3rd win of the season. Talked about the rushing yards a moment ago, Leaf, and it's fairly close in that area. Turnovers are even at 1-1 as well.
Well, you know, you can look at all these stats, and sometimes it's a little mind-boggling, but I'm going to tell you what the real story of that half was. Some pretty serious dancing by some players. Now, hey, that's Brigade's 57. He had a series where he made a whole pile of plays, and then you got Peyton. Hey, he's got 2 sacks in the first half, or maybe 3. Yeah. So listen, these, you know, that's time for some dancing, and these guys they're having fun. You know, they've had 3 weeks where they haven't really played all that well as a team, but they're having a little more fun this afternoon. Hey, Hatziano, he's no fool, eh? 44 Hatziano.
Right by the fan.
You betcha. See, now, it's no secret here in Baltimore. This is smart, eh, the way they set this up. The visiting team sits in the sun, and the home team's in the shade in the second half. So, and this was a good game at halftime.
There's a great run. I think this is the play here. Number 21.
Got some serious speed to the outside. Look at the little guy there.
No chance.
Pants are almost falling down as he's chasing him down the field. That's a big helmet for him, though.
He's getting ready to spike the ball. A couple of Canadian fans here. Oh, maybe not. They've got the flag tilted. Second half is underway, and the Argos on the return by Pat Coleman out across the 35. Stopped by Matt Goodwin. So let's see what Kent Austin can do with the Toronto offense in the second half. One very solid drive engineered by Austin in the first half, and that netted the touchdown.
It's funny, you know, Bob Abilovich, the general manager, and I were chatting at halftime, and, you know, it just seemed like their offensive production was so much better when they had first down plays that got them at least 5 yards. I mean, Austin's numbers are terrific, but I mean, you only got 7 points, so at some point in time you got to get it downfield a little more. But first down has really been the key for them.
First down, Argos out across the 30 in the pinball. Mike Clemens is about halfway to another Argo first down. He's had a super game. Stopped by Alfred Payton.
Well, he gives you so much, you know, the all-purpose yards he can give you on punt and kickoff returns. And He's already caught 1 touchdown pass today, but you know, he took a good shot from Alfred Payton there, and I'm not so sure he's not dinged up.
Gives you a lot of heart, too, doesn't he?
Alfred Payton, he gets upfield and he'll crash down and try and make those plays when the inside running game. He's got such tremendous speed. You know, you look at him and he, you know, physically he's got the strength, but he's got the speed to go with it. It's a perfect blend on a front four that they have here in Baltimore. Power up the middle and speed on the outside.
Payton was the Eastern Defensive Player of the Year in 1993. This is second in a bunch for the Argos, and Brigance was in the backfield rather quickly as flags went down.
Somebody drew him there. You know, Toronto, subtle little things that slow you down. 2nd and 5's not that bad, but now you go back to old 2nd and 10.
Procedure, Toronto number 58, down repeated.
It's Chris Giaskis, the right guard. And, you know, you just keep, see, you know, look, I don't blame you, Mike. I'd shake my head, too, because, you know, man, see, hey, but that's just a mental thing. Toronto's had a couple of those. Mazzotti jumped offside when they had 2nd and short, and now 2nd and 5, Giaskos does it. And, you know, that really hurts your team. These have been tough conversions for Toronto today.
2nd and 10 from the 37. More heat on Austin. Throwing on the run and no one home on the near sidelines. O.J. Brigance was supplying the pressure on Austin, and he really had to unload in a hurry.
And he didn't have any coverage responsibilities. His only responsibility was to spy the quarterback if he came out and broke containment out of the pocket. And, you know, he saw Austin. There you see Brigance. Boom, he's coming up the middle. Now he's trying to just contain, and he chases Austin down and makes Austin throw the ball away. He's had himself a solid game.
Here's Terry Baker standing inside his 25 on 3rd down.
I think he should kick it out of bounds again. He had a great one in the first half, but I'd be going to the sidelines and not
keep it away from Chris Wright, no doubt about it.
Well, you bet.
Low snap, and it is bouncing away from Wright. But he does get his hands on the ball. Had to run a long way to get to it. That gave the Argos a chance to get coverage upfield. Leading the tacklers that time, Tony Obilovich. Chris Wright, number 1 in total return yards with 1,018 coming into the game. We haven't finished the calculations. You add that to the 117, and you've got what he's amassed in return yards.
Well, all purpose, you know, there you see it. That 117 has put him temporarily into the lead in that category.
Stallions first down early in the 2nd half. Out across the 30-yard line at the 32. Pringle again. And he's grabbed from behind by Swift Birch.
Mike Pringle, ball carrier, wrapped up by Swift.
Penalty marker back near the 25.
Penalty marker on the field.
Baltimore
Major
Stallions
foul,
6 and 3.
unnecessary roughness. Toronto number 90 after the play. First down.
So Birch must have taken another shot in the
he did. He gave him a shot when Pringle was on the ground. He made the initial tackle. Then he gave another push while he was down on the ground. And you'll see it right here. Here's the tackle. Now watch on the ground. He's going to give another shot right there. That's that little shot. I mean, that's not even a shot. You get 15. I don't know about that one. This is, you know, this is football.
Yeah, you say it's not a pillow fight out there, don't you? On first down, Chris Armstrong makes the catch, stopped short of a first down by Frank Adams. Maurice Kelly, I should say, number 16.
Baltimore's passing offense is a real high percentage type of offense. Here's Chris Armstrong. They run trips to the short side of the field, and you know, Armstrong with 3 receivers in a small space still gets quite a bit of room, and you know, Tracy Ham just delivers it in there, but you got 3 against 2 over there. That's tough for Toronto to cover.
Pringle on 2nd and 2, and he'll have the first down for the Stallions.
I guess the thing that you have to like about Baltimore's offense is every game they play, they have a chance physically to dominate their opponents with that big offensive line. And, you know, you got Drummond, Tui Peloto, and Pringle, all good, hard runners. And, you know, they have a chance to really wear teams down. And we'll see in the second half if they can do that to Toronto. They got that 13-point lead, and they'd like nothing better than just beat away at that front four of the Argonauts.
There's a long, slow drive by the Stallions out of the 50 with a first down, and Pringle again. He's got another first down for Baltimore inside the Toronto 35. And Swift Birch had to get back and make the tackle.
Tackled by Carlos.
Now you slowly see, John, Mike Pringle's getting the ball a little bit more on this drive, and they're starting to wear down that front four. And then you can just feel what the game plan for Baltimore is. You know, let's take this third quarter and really soften up Toronto's defense.
We're going to run a little, and then we're going to run a little more.
Well, you know, you use your weapons, which is a great offensive line.
And has Pringle coming out of the backfield, complete. Stopped short of the first down by Don Wilson.
Wrapped up by
Patrick Burke actually on the tackle, number 19.
Well, he had 9 for 59 at halftime, so, you know, all of a sudden now he's added another 20 on 3 carries here in the third quarter. So, you know, they've said, hey, let's get Mike Pringle really going here in that third quarter and see if it can take its toll.
That was his third reception of the afternoon as well. 2nd and 3, and Pringle might be stopped short of a first down here. We'll see where they spot the ball. He had to get across the 25, and he's awfully close. Tony Obilovich, number 55, put the stop on Mike Pringle that time. Obilovich has been mentioned several times this afternoon in his first start of 1995.
Well, he's in there because of the good Baltimore running game. A little more physical, a little stronger than Joe Sardo, who's been playing that linebacking spot. That's not a knock on Sardo, but just feel like Obilovich gives them a little better support against the run, and that's what Toronto, of course, figured they'd need today.
It will be enough for the first down at the 25-yard line. This Baltimore drive has been impressive so far.
You know, as a defense now, you have to almost play games with Tracy Ham and try and get in his helmet and think of what he's going to do. They've been running. Now, first down, you know, if you're Ham or Steve Barato, the offensive coordinator, you throw good time to maybe throw a little play action in on these guys and really keep Toronto off balance.
Play whistled in with the Baltimore Stallions led by Tracy Ham. Set up at the Argonaut 25. Definitely in scoring range with Clark. Split to one side. Shannon Culver to the other side of the field. 5-receiver package in there for Ham. And here's the heat. Ham eludes the first wave and the second. Throws to the end zone. Touchdown. Chris Armstrong. Tracy Ham looked to be stopped twice. He escaped and got it away. I didn't see any markers down there. I don't know what Ham is talking about. He gets the touchdown.
Well, once again, you know, it's just the elusiveness of Tracy Ham. It looks like Toronto's got a chance to make the sack, and the pressure up the middle by Jeff Cummins, but he can't get there. You know, that's what Bob Obilovich and I also talked about at halftime. He said, boy, can Tracy Ham still do it to you? He doesn't run that much, but when he does, he's able to get away from pressure. And Chris Armstrong, I mean, you can't stay with him all day. And Baltimore gets the easy touchdown, but that's a solid drive they put together to begin their first series in the third quarter.
And a 20-point lead for the Stallions with a timeout in Baltimore. Chris Armstrong has his 6th touchdown of the season. Another Stallion drive nets a touchdown. It's 27-7 on Chris Armstrong's 6th touchdown reception of the season. And now the Baltimore kickoff. The Argos haven't had great field position from special teams set up here. So far, here's Pat Coleman trying again. This might be the time as Coleman gets out to midfield. Stopped by Tracy Gravely. 23-yard return. 7 plays to cover 77 yards. And Chris Armstrong with a 25-yard touchdown reception from Tracy Ham, who eluded a couple of Argo tacklers.
Well, it's a good chance here. Here's the quarterback sees downfield. Oh, now he feels that pressure. Cummins has his man beat, and somehow he ducks away. Now Hatsiano's got a chance, but oh, the good quick footwork, and Ham's away. And Well, you look at the little intangibles. I mean, you look at the box score tomorrow, it's going to show a Chris Armstrong touchdown reception, but what it's not going to tell you is all the good things that Tracy Ham did on this play to find himself some extra time.
Away from Cummins and away from Hatzianu, and still had enough balance to throw the pass.
I mean, that's unbelievable. You look at intangibles, and, you know, you can say, yeah, Tracy Ham's a great runner, but he's a great guy at just getting away from pressure. Hatzianu's just trying to figure out how he didn't make the play. Of course, Chris Armstrong, you know, he's thinking, well, I just got all day to run around down there and get open, and, you know, how can you cover him for that long? It's impossible.
Noticed Ham talking to the referee, George Black, after the touchdown, and we didn't really know what it was about. Perhaps it was on Cummings, who actually got his hand in his face, and Tracy might have been looking for a face masking call there. I don't think it was really there.
That's tough. Tough to see how he got it there, but, you know, sure everybody in Baltimore breathes a sigh of relief when Chris Wright's able to walk off under his own steam.
Argos first down at the 54. Sideline pattern for Coleman, away from the first tackler. And O.J. Brigance forced him out. Norris Thomas had a chance.
And John, Toronto's now at a real crossroads in this game. 27-7. You know, they've done a nice job running the ball with Pinball Clemens today, but I don't think at this point it's going to get the job done. And, you know, Ken Austin, as he came onto the field, I think he's thinking that, you know, I'm going to have to get it downfield with my arm. I can't worry about interceptions or things like that, but for us to get back into it, I'm going to have to do it throwing.
On first down at the 45, Austin with a little time this time, and there's Mazzotti down to the 25. Stopped by Urban Smith. Paul Mazzotti, number 88 for the Argos. Had a big catch in the first half for over 60 yards.
One of the things I like about Mazzotti is his ability to get off the jam. The jam is Urban Smith right up on the line of scrimmage right here, you know, trying to get a hand in him, but, you know, he fights off, push him upfield, and then make the good hard cut to the inside, and that's how he gets his separation. But, you know, any young receivers, you got to straighten up that corner upfield and then make your break, and that was a good pattern.
On first down at the 25, Austin releasing quickly far side. He has Jock Slimey, number 81, and he's down near the 20-yard line, maybe a yard inside that. Stopped by Tracy Grabbley.
I think Ken Austin has felt this. You know, haven't been any running plays on this drive. You know, and, you know, he and Mike Barrigelli probably had a chat on the sidelines before he came in and said, look, Ken, start filling the air with footballs and hope we can get back in this one.
At the 20-yard line, it's 2nd and 5, and the Argos need a touchdown. Austin has a first down. Solid run, stopped by O.J. Brigance. Mike Clemens made the catch on the far side.
It's a good matchup for Toronto. What you get is a little man-to-man coverage by the Baltimore defense, and that means that O.J. Brigance, you know, he has to take the back out of the backfield, and that's asking a lot. Like, I mean, Pinball Clemens is by him so easily. Like, right out, I mean, how can he go that far? So, you know, Austin's reading the right thing right off the bat. He knows that, boom, I've got an easy first down. He gets it out to Clemens. That's just reading the defense, which he's really good at.
Argos inside the 10 with 3 cracks at it from here. And Austin overthrew Mike Clemens. What happened?
That's play they scored on earlier, and they tried to run 3 receivers in and pick off Clemens' man. Now, the Baltimore secondary is complaining about it, but, you know, that's the play that Clemens scored on. They just overthrew it.
27-7, Baltimore leading Toronto in the 3rd quarter.
So Austin's been hot, but he hasn't had any points. Here's where he's got to get some points out of this. And, you know, 14-16 is great for your stats, but, you know, you need the touchdown.
2nd down, goal to go. Here's the newcomer, Pat Coleman, made the catch and couldn't go anywhere with a football. Wrapped up by Tracy Grabbley.
You know, Toronto's done this twice now. They get in 2nd and 10, and they run the wide receiver screen once to Mazzotti and now to Pat Coleman. And, you know, this is a great first down play. I don't think this is your goal line kind of play here. And, you know, not their overly criticized offensive scheme, but I think that's just too tough to score on. And, you know, they needed the touchdown in the worst way, and I think they're going to gamble here.
3rd and goal to go, 6-yard line. The Argos need 7 points, and they're gambling.
I agree with this call. I mean, I think you got to take a shot at it here.
Austin. And he couldn't get it there. Intended it for Masadi. Irvin Smith covering on Paul Masadi.
And Irvin Smith was an all-Canadian corner a year ago, and he was an all-Canadian because he's one of the best man-to-man guys in the league. And watch this, he gets the jam in there, and Masadi really never gets the separation. Is it interference? Well, I don't know. That's pretty close to being interference. Smith never took his hand off Masadi the whole way.
So you want to be a head coach in the Canadian Football League? It's not all that terrific a time.
Tomorrow, we will take you to Commonwealth Stadium. The Edmonton Eskimos, they always have great special teams. They'll try and take it to the Ottawa Rough Riders. It's a 4:30 start Eastern time. Let's pick it back to John and Lee.
Welcome back to Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, where the Stallions lead the Argonauts 27-7. 7:07 to play, third quarter. And another Argo drive stalled at the 6.
I think Toronto's defense now has to think turnover. They got Baltimore backed up, and when they go to tackle, the ball carrier or the receiver got to try and strip that ball loose. One guy wrap up like that, and the other guy come and strip it.
Ham for Pringle. Don Wilson made the tackle.
So, and here's where Calvin Tiggle has to come up big too. You know, they need a quick 2-and-out here. The worst thing that can happen now for Toronto is to have Baltimore just take that ball and shove it down their throat, take a lot of time off the clock. This is a good opportunity for the defense to really make a contribution in this game.
Pringle got 1 yard. This is 2nd and 9. Big play for the Argo defense. Ham stands in, fires. He's got a first down. Out near the 25-yard line, Robert Clark.
With the reception from Tracy Ham.
First catch of the afternoon for Robert Clark.
Well, a pretty good read for Tracy Ham. You get a good look at what he's looking at downfield. Now, once Tiggle drops out like that and leaves that middle area, that's the lane that Tracy Ham is going in. And Toronto's defense couldn't just squeeze down those zones enough. And Robert Clark, to his credit, he's pretty happy. Look at the smile there, you know. He knows that he just got his team a big first down.
Out across the 25 at the 26, 1st and 10 Stallions. They lead it by 20. Here's Mike Pringle again. Not showing any signs of getting tired out there one little bit. He's down near the 35. Stopped there by Swift Birch.
Laurie Bursey.
And that's that counter play that Baltimore loves to run, and it's so tough to defense because the guy they trap just gets upfield, and all of a sudden, before you know it, it was Jeff Cummins, and he just had nowhere to go, and he was pretty easy guy to block, and Pringle cuts up. You know it's coming. It's another thing to try and stop it.
Gain is 7. This is 2nd and 3. And fake one way and takes out himself around the far side. Stopped by Tony Obilovich, number 55. Little bootleg, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah, this is called the naked bootleg because, I mean, you don't have anybody, helping you here. So there's the fake right in there. Boom, everybody's coming down the line of scrimmage, and, there's just no way you can stop it. I mean, here's Ham here, and then boom, the end comes down. There's nobody to help. That's called naked bootleg because you don't have a blocker with you.
First down Stallions at the 45, and again it's Mike Pringle. 4 yards for Pringle on that carry.
Well, the way
Jeff Cummins is in on the tackle.
Sorry, John. The way you try and slow down the counters that Baltimore is just starting to run on every play is to get some penetration upfield from your 2 tackles. But, Toronto's just not getting it. And that offensive line of Baltimore is really starting to dominate this game.
Stallions are winning the rushing war here now.
Shar Pordanis, who was the offensive lineman of the league a year ago, I mean, he's not even playing today. He's got bad ankles, and this offensive line doesn't miss a beat.
2nd and 6. Ham from the shotgun. Couldn't connect. with Chris Armstrong, 81. Tommy Henry was stride for stride with Armstrong, who had a touchdown earlier.
But look what the offense did. I mean, they take it over on what, their own 6-yard line, and they move it out to their own 49. I mean, that's 43 yards of offense and about 5 minutes of time off the clock. And now Josh Miller, who's the best punter in the league by far, has a chance to pin Toronto deep. So offensively, he didn't get any points, but what a job they did.
No points, but a very successful series, no doubt about it. Miller standing in. Now they fake it this time. Tui Palutu flipping it out for Drummond, and this will be a first down Stallions. Patrick Burke over to make the tackle. Nice looking little play here. Last thing the Argos were expecting.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Toronto number 20, first down.
Don Wilson singled out.
And Don Matthews is notorious for running these plays. Tui Palutu, the direct snap, and then, I mean, they played the rugby game here, Canada-US, before this game, and I think this was one of these rugby kind of plays where you just go down and then you flip it to the, maybe Matthews and the team were kind of watching that game and said, hey, you know what,
use that today.
We can use that today. That was a rugby play.
Patrick Burke is the injured Toronto Argonaut. Mike Farragelli has all kinds of worries right now. Already down by 20 points. And his defense has let the Stallions escape from the 6-yard line.
Well, you go back and you look, Patrick Burke, you know, he's a small guy, and Robert Drummond's pretty powerful. And as Burke drops his head, Drummond just gives him that right forearm shot in the helmet. And, you know, it's just like a little guy going up against big, huge guy.
Time for a quick timeout in Baltimore, where the Stallions are all over the Argonauts. It's 27-7 on CFL Live.
Because you wear them till their tongues hang out, Micotin penetrates the skin to kill athlete's foot.
Baltimore Stallions gambled on 3rd and 6 and 1. They also had some extra yards tagged on after a roughing penalty against Don Wilson of the Argos to set things up at the 35. That's Patrick Burke being attended to at the Argonaut bench. And here's the Stallions' current drive, beginning at the 6-yard line. Now they're 1st and 10 at the 35. Masterful job by Tracy Ham. Looks both ways, finds his receiver. Chris Armstrong, number 81, makes the catch. He's inside the 30. And Frank Adams made the tackle.
John, you know your offensive line is doing an unbelievable job when, as a quarterback, you can drop back and look front side to your receivers and then still have time to come look at backside and find somebody and still complete the ball. It tells you your offensive line is just giving you all kinds of time to throw. Now, see, I think Toronto's front's a little tired now. They've been run against, and now they're a little bit tired coming on Tracy.
Yeah, this has been a long drive. This is 2nd and 2, and Pringle converts it easily. Still going, Mike Pringle can't quite get to the end zone. Don Wilson forced him out. What a great run by Mike Pringle. Tight-roping down the sidelines, and they rule him out at the 4.
And once again, it's the counter, and look at Robert Drummond. He's up leading them all the way through. Drummond, the lead blocker, got 10 yards downfield making blocks. So all of us, you know, you've seen it. I mean, this isn't tough to figure out here in the 3rd quarter. Baltimore's offensive line has really been the story. Look at this. I mean, Sardo can't get close, and then Drummond's blocking downfield receivers. Look at that. Culver made a block.
1st and goal to go, Baltimore. At the Argo 4-yard line, here's Pringle. Flags are down, and Pringle is down in the end zone for another Stallion touchdown. Indication is outside against the Argos, so chalk up one more.
Offside. Thrower number 99. Penalties declined. Touchdown.
Well, you know, you look for Mike Farragelli at points in the game where it was either won or lost. I mean, his offense got down, and 3rd down gamble didn't make it. Now Baltimore, you know, they come back down the field, and, you know, pretty easy there. Fake punt, and they started this one on their own 6-yard line and end up down here, and they get the touchdown.
Nice little 104-yard march for a touchdown.
Well, you know, you look at teams and how they close out games. Baltimore just, I think we're only in the 3rd quarter, but I think that might have been the one.
Carlos Huerta adds one more to the Stallion total. It's 34-7 on Mike Pringle's 6th rushing touchdown of the season. So the Argos came out and did what they really wanted to do. Get the first touchdown to end the long streak, but after a brief lead, on the strength of that touchdown, it was 7-6 at one stage on a couple of Stallion field goals first quarter. Argos were in the lead, but all the touchdowns since then have gone against Mike Faragelli.
Well, you know, you look at Mike Faragelli and the expectations of this team at the beginning of the season. I mean, everybody said this is the bomb squad, and so many great receivers, and of course Kent Austin, and you know, it just hasn't worked out that way. And you know, they have. You look at what can you do to turn this around. A great opening drive, and then nothing since. It's very difficult to say. I mean, is it coaching problems? Is it personnel problems? And you know, I think at this point in time might be a little combination of both. Again, Austin, numbers-wise, you know, I mean, he's had an impressive day, but the numbers mean diddly if you're not getting it in the end zone. And at one point in the 3rd quarter, they had a chance and just couldn't convert.
Josh Miller's kickoff coming down at the 20-yard line. Great return on for Coleman. Still has the ball. Here's Pat Coleman looking for a block. Still on his feet as he gets down to the 20-yard line and inside. Stop there by Robert Drummond. 82, Pat Coleman.
Boy, Pat Coleman, we knew he had some great speed, but see how he glides. He waits for that one opening. The good kick returners all do that, and then it's speed. Now you've waited till your spot, and now he just turns on the afterburners, and this is a great return. And, you know, Toronto got to capitalize on this one.
82-yard return for Pat Coleman.
Yeah, the easy part was getting the kick return to this spot. This has been the tough spot for Toronto. And, you know, Coleman's not in the game. He's out for a breather. So Jock Climby moves out to wide receiver. The turnovers was a Matt Goodwin interception, and then, of course, giving it up on downs.
1st and goal to go from the 10. Austin on target down near the 5-yard line for Paul Mazzotti. Courtney Griffin forced him out.
And you know who's calling the plays here. I mean, Mike Faragelli's signaling them in. He's the offensive coordinator.
Argos desperate for a touchdown with 1:25 to go, 3rd quarter. Second and goal to go, Toronto at the Baltimore 5. That one is tipped. Mike Clemens got a hand on it, but couldn't bring it home after the tip. Elfert Payton got a hand up.
Payton,
3 sacks and a tip.
Yeah, to the right of your screen there. I mean, he knows he's not going to get near it on the pass rush, so it does the next best thing. And Baltimore's defensive front, they're very good at it. Carter on the other side is excellent at getting those tips too.
Argos gambled on 3rd and 6 on their previous series. Gambling on 3rd and 5 here. Austin, touchdown. Jock Climby, number 81. Austin sold it with a pretty good fake to Mike Clemens.
Well, this is something to build on for Toronto. They had a great kick return by Coleman, and now 3 plays later, they're able to capitalize with the touchdown pass to Jock Climby, only his 2nd of the year. And you see pretty good coverage by Norris Thomas. Austin just kind of threw it in behind him. So Climby, that's the first one he's caught from Kent Austin. Caught his other touchdown from Eric White in their win over Ottawa.
Baker has the extra point with 42 seconds to go, 3rd quarter. It's a 20-point ball game again. Baltimore on top, 34-14. Here's Faragelli celebrating, I take it, the touchdown.
It's kind of an unusual way to celebrate the touchdown. I mean, you know, he hasn't had a lot of experience
well, not lately.
At expressing the jubilation of the touchdown, so maybe he's not overly comfortable with it right now. But he's had 2 chances today to get excited. You know, Clements touchdown, Climby touchdown. Now Toronto's just got to go back and play solid defense. They're down by 20. There's a full quarter and a bit to go, so
20 points. 4th quarter ahead. Is it too early for the onside kick thought?
Well, I think it's way too early. I mean, you know, you got to make Baltimore play. You don't want to set them up on a short field if you don't make it. I mean, 20 points, there's lots of time. That's only 3 possessions, so I don't think there's, you know, Baltimore thinks that maybe they're going to. They're putting a lot of guys up front in the hands team.
Chris Wright and Mike Pringle deep for the Stallions. Ready for the Terry Baker kickoff with 42 seconds to go in the 3rd quarter.
Chris Wright deep for the Stallions. Terry Baker is set to kick off.
Pringle at the 15. He had a great return on the opening kickoff this time. Slowed down at the 35 by Noah Cantor. 21-yard return after the kickoff. So a tired Argonaut defense heads out on the field again. 3 plays to cover 9 yards after the great kick return by Pat Coleman.
Well, even though Tracy Ham has thrown the ball pretty well today, I think Toronto's defense, you know, you got to make it the plan now to shut down the run and make Ham start throwing. I mean, you can't have Ham shove it down your throat with another 6, 7, 8 play kind of drive.
Chris Armstrong and Robert Clark, 2 of the 3 receivers to the near side for Tracy Ham as he gives it to Pringle again. Pringle running behind a solid offensive line. Finally dropped by Carlos Fowler.
You know, like, you know it's coming, and it's the same old counter play. Here's Pringle. He goes way out here, and then he'll come back. But watch Neil Ford. I mean, he's 300 pounds leading it around the corner. And watch what happens if you're Don Wilson and you go to stick your nose up into the hole. This is what happens right there. Boom, you get drilled by a 300-pounder. Pringle just waits and cuts up inside it.
Ford took out 2 with 1 block there.
Yeah, well, 300, you can do that. I mean, the 2 of them aren't 300 together, maybe.
Here's Pringle on 2nd and shorts. He's short of the 1st down. Needed 3 yards, and he came up just a little shy. We'll check on the Stallion decision when we return. That's the end of the 3rd quarter in Baltimore, with the Stallions on top by 20. Famous band in Baltimore. Used to be the hometown band of the Baltimore Colts in the great days of the NFL team here. Now, obviously, those youngsters weren't playing for the Baltimore Colts and Johnny Unitas and company. Here we are, 3rd down, and a kicking situation for the Baltimore Stallions. Coming down to Mike Pinball Clemens inside his 20. Clemens can't find any running room that time as he's cut down in the open field by Reggie Gibbons. No return after a 49-yard punt. Big story is rushing in the ball game with the Stallions. Mike Pringle and Tracy Ham totaling 177 yards along the ground so far, compared to 81, most of that for the pinball Mike Clemens. Kent Austin down by 20 points at 34-14. Begins just outside the Argo 15 at the 16-yard line. Clemens gets the call. And he's got about 4 yards wrapped up by Alfred Payton and a few friends.
I think this is a good idea by Kent Austin. They're going to the hurry-up offense. Baltimore wants to substitute. Now, they got too many men on the field, and, you know, the referee good. He threw the flag and saw it. They caught Baltimore trying to make substitution. That's why that hurry-up is good. Sometimes you really mess up the defense, and they're going to get the free penalty here.
I got 4 flags down. Everyone saw it.
All the referees, they're sharp today. They all saw that one. Reggie Gibbons was trying to get in, and, you know, he got halfway out there, and he didn't know whether to stay in and try and hide or come out. He came out, so they all saw him trying to get off the field.
Too many men. Baltimore. First down.
Reggie didn't know what to do.
Was he halfway on the field or halfway off? I mean, that's the question.
I think he was halfway on, because that's when they saw. There's a fine line there, isn't there?
There certainly is. First down, Argos. Just shy of the 30. Austin operating from the shotgun and firing quickly for Creepo. Creepo puts a shoulder down and gets about 7 yards. Tracy Gravely forced him out.
Sorry, I think Rob Creepo's got to get some more playing time. You know, he's a guy that's a great target. He's 20 catches, and 2 of them have been for touchdowns. He's been one of the more productive receivers, and, you know, I don't know how they're going to do it. They use him strictly now in the 5-pack. They bring Dwayne Ford out and put him in, but, well, I don't know. If I had a Rob Creepo on my team, I'd find a way to get him some more action.
Well, he's 3rd in receiving yards on the team. He's missed a couple of games, and he's a backup receiver. It's hard to figure.
I think he feels that way, too.
2nd and a long yard to go. Now they're set. Argos with 3 in the backfield. Pinball Mike Clemens underneath, and he'll have the first down. Gravely again, number 7 on the tackle for the Stallions. He's had a solid game this afternoon.
You know, you see to the left side of your screen, 99, Jeff Cummins, the defensive end. He's in there blocking, and, you know, he gets, look at that, he gets the good block right at the point of attack on Elvin Walton, and that allows Clements, who was running pretty hard up in there, to get that first down. But they bring old Jeff Cummins in there for a little extra blocking power. He really did a good job.
1st and 10. Argos at their own 43. Here's the heat on Austin as the air's worn out. And is it picked off by Norris Thomas? 2 went up, and Thomas came down with the ball ahead of Pat Coleman.
Thomas with the interception of Ken Austin's pass.
2nd interception given up by Austin.
Well, you know, Pat Coleman, he's in the lineup because of his speed. Tries to get to the inside on Irvin Smith. Now, Norris Thomas is starting at the middle safety spot, and he's originally a corner, so you know he's got lots of speed. And Irvin Smith, with the good coverage, gets the tip, but it's Thomas who comes all the way over from the middle and makes the interception. But hey, he's a corner in the middle. He's got lots of speed to make that play.
Thomas has his first interception of the season, and the Stallions have the ball back again. Number 23, Norris Thomas of the Stallions, has his first interception of the season, and another Argo drive is over. 2nd interception tossed up by Kent Austin this afternoon. Stallions beginning with a first down just inside the 35. Ham for Pringle. Here's Mike Pringle, breaks through again. What a great running back, number 27 for the Stallions, Mike Pringle.
John, let's go back and have one more look at the Thomas interception. There's a couple of things that are interesting. Number 1, you got Coleman, who's only 5'7". See how much shorter he is than Irvin Smith. Now, let it go, and you just see Smith. He won't let Coleman come back over the top. See the body positioning? There's no way at 5'7" Coleman can come over the top and make that play. And then, of course, Norris Thomas came a long way to get the pick. But, you know, that's one of the problems when you've got a guy that's only 5'7".
On first down, Ham goes for a long one, intending it for Robert Clark, number 86, and it was a little longer than Clark because he was about 15 yards away. So it'll be 2nd and 10.
This has been a very, very typical Tracy Ham kind of game. Look at the high percentage. I mean, he came into today at 56%. It's going to go up a little bit. Nothing to beat yourself. No picks, just a couple of touchdowns, a great running game, and he got away from a lot of pressure and, you know, bought himself extra time. I mean, this is just a vintage Tracy Ham performance.
2nd and 10, a little heat on Ham this time, and he fired it behind his intended receiver, Chris Armstrong, as the Argos were charging. So 2 and out for the Stallions, who lead it by 20 with 11:36 to go in the 4th quarter.
And you haven't said that too many times today about Baltimore 2 and out.
No, really haven't.
They've done a nice job working the clock and getting up first downs to get out of bad trouble and get field position reestablished.
Put together a 104-yard drive for a touchdown here in the 2nd half.
Yeah, I think that was the one that kind of sealed it now. You know, they're up by 20 points, and Toronto hasn't shown that they have the kind of comeback offense.
Josh Miller, solid afternoon punting for the Stallions. This isn't one of his better kicks. Bouncing near the 30 for Mike Clemens. He danced for a couple of yards, and a late penalty flag comes in. Tui Palutu was in on the tackle. Number 32, helping Clemens up now. 2 markers down.
Well, they had Jason Bryant coming in with the helmet like a torpedo, and, you know, he doesn't get called, but they call Toronto on the holding. I don't know.
Illegal block. Toronto number 36. First down.
That's P.J. Martin. Special teams player, doesn't see a lot of activity, and then gets caught here.
Now there you see it right in the left of your screen. Right.
So the Argos have to begin just outside the 10-yard line. Austin with 208 yards passing, but he's tossed a couple of interceptions, and he's been sacked now 4 times. Elfrid Payton again. So Payton has gotten to the quarterback 4 times in one afternoon.
Once again, watch top of your screen. Here comes Payton up there, and you know, look at the little shake and bake on Dumoresque. As a tackle, if you don't keep moving your feet, you don't have a chance. And you know, Mike Dumoresque just had a pretty tough afternoon. Well, I looked at that matchup before the game, and I thought Payton could have a good one.
And he has had a good one. Mike Clemens really had nowhere to go, wrapped up in the arms of Gerald Bayless.
Well, Baltimore's defense has had a lot of things to dance about today, and Payton with 4 sacks, he's practiced that dancing. That's the twist right there, I guess. I don't know. But you look at games, John, and the players will tell you, whoever wins the battle in the pit usually wins the game. And sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not. But today, the offensive line of Baltimore has won that battle, and their defensive front has won the other battle. So it's not surprising that they've had this game in control since the 1st quarter.
Baker 10 yards deep in the end zone. Good kick coming out to midfield, and to Chris Wright. Wright has been great on returns today. Had nowhere to go this time. Wrapped up by Calvin Tiggle. 5-yard return, 52-yard punt by Baker. Long way back for the Argos with less than 10 minutes to go in Baltimore. Toronto trails by 20. Back in Baltimore, a new quarterback for the Stallions, Sean Jones, in his 2nd season in the CFL. 20 of 38 for 237 yards, a couple of touchdowns, a couple of interceptions. The numbers on Sean Jones so far.
I think this is a good move, too. Tracy Ham's had a nice afternoon, but with 9 minutes to go, I think it's good to give your backup quarterback a little bit of playing time.
From the 35, he hands it off to Chris Wright, number 28. Tracy Ham, a very effective afternoon, and he's got the hat on, chatting over on the sidelines. 13 of 19 for 165 and a couple of touchdowns. Not big passing numbers as you talked about, but a very effective game that he did call.
Pretty typical of what they want out of their offense here. 19 throws for him in 3.5 quarters of play.
Armstrong made the catch on the far side. He was forced out by Frank Adams.
Sean Jones, you know, I mean, he's drafted in the NFL by the Vikings, but they drafted him as a middle safety. I mean, he was a quarterback at Georgia Tech for all his 4 years and set all kinds of records down there. In fact, is their all-time leading passer. But, you know, it so often happens in the pros, he was drafted as a safety and spent the entire year with the Vikings doing that. And he said, heck with that, I still want to be a quarterback.
And he put together back-to-back first downs, make that 3 in a row, as he finds Robert Clark. Maurice Kelly forcing Clark out, so a very effective performance by Sean Jones.
Well, you have to like that. I mean, he's 6'1", 200 pounds, and with terrific running ability, and it's a good style for him as a young quarterback to roll him out, cut the field in half, and only have to worry about half the coverage to read. And he finds Robert Clark out there, and that's a nice throw on the run. You know, I think it's pretty easy to be a quarterback in Baltimore's system because, number one, of the run, and number two, you know, you get the good time to throw.
This is Rice, and he's stopped short of a first down by Calvin Tiggle. So Chris Wright getting a little work in the Stallion backfield in behind Mike Pringle.
You know, John, I'm not going to get into the whole issue of the import quotas and all that, but I mean, look at Baltimore's team in running backs. You've got Mike Pringle and Robert Drummond, and then you've got Peter Tuipulotu, who's a terrific blocking fullback, and then you throw Chris Wright into the mix as another running back. I mean, those are 4 guys that any one of them could start for any team in this league, and, you know, is that fair or not fair?
Well, sometimes not fair. Paluto comes up with a pass from Jones, and he'll score. Robert Clark throwing a block, and Peter Tuipulotu has a 32-yard touchdown. Just as you talked about the depth, here's Tuipulotu in the ball game, and he has a 25-yard TD.
Yeah, and he just sneaks across the line of scrimmage right here, and Sean Jones again. I mean, that's great protection. Nobody in his face, and Tuipulotu, who's a great receiver out of the backfield, makes the catch, and then, look, gets the block from Robert Clark. Clark took 2 guys, and he blocked his own man, then went for somebody else. And, you know, I said it's easy to play quarterback in this system. Yes, you have to make the plays, but, I mean, you get good protection. You got a good receiving core. It's a nice place as a backup quarterback to come in and get some playing time.
Stallions add to their total in Baltimore with the backup at the controls.
The Ottawa Rough Riders are going to need a tight defense tomorrow as they travel to Commonwealth Stadium to take on the Edmonton Eskimos. It is a 4:30 start Eastern time. The Eskies 6-3, Ottawa 2-7. Let's go back to Memorial Stadium where the Stallions are running away with it.
41-14.
Hi, Mo, I love you. All for you, babe. My mom, dad, back in San Mateo. Woo!
Peter Tuipulotu has the touchdown. Nice little toss from Sean Jones. That's his first of the year.
Well, it is, and you know, here's a guy, your fullback, who had 53 catches a year ago, and that's, you know, maybe I think it's only his 6th catch this year, but, you know, you talk about so many guys that can make contributions in different ways. He's a great lead blocker, catches the ball well.
Argos with Frank Adams returning the ball. Markers are down out near the 25. Sean Jones off the bench in relief of Tracy Ham. Took just 5 plays to cover 65 yards and then a 32-yard touchdown toss. A minute 45.
Yeah, talk about a team having fun today. I mean, Baltimore's made at least 10 big plays, like big plays in this game. They've dominated physically. I mean, yeah, you could sit back on the bench and be proud of your effort today. I mean, they played a whale of a game.
Section 27.
Penalty goes against the Argos, and they're back now at the 15. Marvin Graves now in at quarterback.
Well, I think this is a good move, too. You might as well give him a little playing time. The game's out of reach, and who knows, they may end up using him a little more this season.
His first one is almost picked off. Jock Climby was the intended receiver. Norris Thomas, who had an interception earlier, had a hand on it as Austin discusses things with Mike Faragelli on the far side.
Well, you see Norris Thomas, look at him back in the middle. He's just reading the quarterback his throw, and as Climby tips it, Thomas almost has his second. His other one was on a tip, too, so he's getting lots of chances at the tip drill today.
2nd and 10 Argos at the 15. Flags are down as Graves finds Ford. That's Dwayne Ford. He hasn't been involved much this afternoon. Stopped by Jason Bryant.
Well, he doesn't get a chance to be involved a lot. I mean, he doesn't carry the football much, and you know, he's like having an extra lineman back there. They use him for blocking mostly.
They've had a lot of receivers in, and he's been watching a lot today as well.
Offside, Baltimore number 58. Repeat, 2nd down.
John, you talk about the noises and the physical dominance of Baltimore. Listen to this one.
Couple of crunches on Dwayne.
That was 3. That was 3 good pops in there.
Penalty against the Stallions makes it 2nd and 5 for Graves and the Argos. Looking deep for Mazzotti. He's got it. Marker is down. Courtney Griffin was covering on Paul Mazzotti, who made a nice effort to make the catch.
Boy, did he ever make an effort. You know, that's a real hand-fighting battle down the sidelines, and you know, they're going to call this one on Griffin, but Mazzotti does a great job to kind of just create a little separation at the end.
Forward pass interference. Baltimore number 25. Penalty is declined. 1st down.
Big gain for the Argos, even though time is running out. Mazzotti at his best right here.
Well, look at the hand in there by Griffin, you know, and Mazzotti's still able to have the upper body strength. Look at that, the hand's in there trying to push him away. But see how Mazzotti keeps that separation by not allowing Griffin to come over the top of him. Well, they need a lot more of those kinds of plays in every game that they're going to play for the rest of the season.
Argos inside the Baltimore 50, but just at the 49. Graves, Mazzotti again. Another circus catch as he was nailed by Jason Bryant on the way down.
Pass complete to Paul Mazzotti. Tripped up by Jason Bryant.
Mazzotti's had a pretty good game today, and you know, now he knows it's zone coverage. Once the corner has left him, he's just, you know, he's not running hard. He's just finding that open spot, and to Graves' credit, he put it in the hole knowing Mazzotti would go get it.
1st down at the 25. Graves stands in. Completes another one, but right back to the line of scrimmage as Walton was in on the tackle.
But, you know,
Mike Clemens made the catch.
A lot of Baltimore backups are getting time to play. Alvin Walton is one of them. You know, Jason Bryant has come in the game. Now they want to, you know, watch themselves on film tomorrow, so the intensity level has almost picked up a little bit, even though it's late in the game.
2nd and long. Graves goes down. It's Alfred Payton. 4 sacks on Austin. And that's number 5.
Well,
Alfred Payton.
And they put Dwayne Ford out there and say, well, look, Duveresque's having trouble. We're going to let Dwayne Ford right here try and get him. But watch the result. It's different guy blocking, but it's the same old story. And watch Payton here. Boom. Just a one-hand slap, and he's by Ford. And, hey, that's a major league body slam right there. That WWF slam.
And he's got a different dance.
That's a home run. He's had 4 dances. Now he's hitting home runs.
Going to Canada, we've got connections. Ontario.
How many is that for him now today? 5.
They got to Austin 4 times.
16 on the year, and he's got a 3-sack lead over Tim Cofield now in Memphis.
Cofield will have a chance to retake the lead before the weekend is up.
And Dwayne Ford, you heard his shoulder on that play on that hand slap by Payton. I mean, it's so quick.
San Antonio will be in Memphis later tonight.
Dwayne Ford, the injured player for the Argonauts.
Other game, Shreveport in British Columbia today, and then tomorrow, Ottawa has the unenviable task of trying to beat the well-rested Eskimos at Commonwealth Stadium. 3rd down and a bunch. Graves looks deep, and no one was home. Jock Climby looked to be the closest receiver to the toss. But Graves missed by a bunch on a 3rd down and 15 situation. Ken Watson was back covering.
I see, you know, this is the illusion of the zone defense. You know, here's Climby right out here, and here's the corner. as soon as Climbey gets past him, you know there's going to be help coming over the top. Kenny Watson's coming, but as a quarterback, sometimes you don't read it that quickly. Like, he thinks he's open right here, but when you throw it deep like that, hey, there's Watson. He gets there on the job. If you want to beat that kind of roll-up zone, you got to throw it hard into the hole, and that's something Marvin Graves will go back and look at the film tomorrow, and coach will say, look, Marvin, when that corner rolls up, you zip it into the hole fast. Don't put airtime on it.
First down, Stallions at the 30. This is Drummond, Robert Drummond, number 2, stopped by Tony Obilovich. And Obilovich causes a loss of a yard.
They needed a little more of that a little earlier.
A little earlier. 2nd and 11.
I'll give Baltimore credit. I mean, they have been on target in all facets of their game today. Special teams have been awesome, and offense has played well, and the defense has really dominated.
John Jones from the shotgun. He'll have a first down to Chris Armstrong. Armstrong still on his feet. Finally chased down by Calvin Tiggle, number 73. Lots of speed by Tiggle to catch up to Armstrong.
Chris Armstrong's a tough guy to cover one-on-one, and Greg Eaglin has the job this time. And technically, it's such a good pattern because Armstrong keeps working back to the quarterback, and there's no way Eaglin can get there to try and get a hand in, and then, the fun starts. That's why they call this guy the playmaker. Not only does he catch the ball, I mean, he gets a lot of extra yards once he catches it.
Dan Crowley is now in at quarterback. Sean Jones engineered 1 touchdown and got the Stallions down to the 50. Crowley almost picked off as he looked for Reggie Perry, number 16.
And Tommy Henry was reading Dan Crowley on that one, because Tommy Henry, Crowley just took the snap and started looking right away for Perry and never took his eyes off him. And, Tommy Henry saw the same thing and tried to get the pick.
It'll be 2nd and 10 with 3:15 to go in Baltimore.
This is one of the reasons why Don Matthews is called a player's coach. He's done everything possible to get everybody on his bench into the game and get a reasonable amount of playing time today.
Robert Drummond takes the swing pass coming out of the backfield without much success. It'll be 3rd down in a punting situation. Frank Adams wrapped up number 2, Robert Drummond there. 3-minute warning in Baltimore. Stallions are rather comfortable right now with a 41-14 lead on the Argos. Very happy Baltimore Stallions bench. They're en route to their 7th win in 10 games.
That's Charlie Carpenter kneeling down there, the offensive line coach, and you talk about guys that have done good jobs. I mean, they put together good blocking schemes for these guys. Charlie's a pretty solid coach.
High kick by Josh Miller. The pinball, Mike Clemens, has nowhere to go. He's surrounded by Stallions. And there's a penalty marker back near the 10-yard line. Reggie Gibbons had the pinball all wrapped up. I think the pinball might be a little tired after a long day.
Flags down.
Argos were hoping to get a little more on their kick and punt returns from Frank Adams and Pat Coleman.
John, I think you're always a little more tired when you've been kind of physically dominated by a team, and that really has been the case today. Baltimore up front.
Illegal block. Burner number 16. First down.
It's penalty against the Argos. That's Maurice Kelly.
Up front today, Mike Faragelli's team has just been kind of swamped by that offensive line and defensive line of the Baltimore Stallions. And that is tiring. That really can wear you out in a hurry.
Beginning inside the 5. First down. Marvin Graves. My gosh, that was almost picked off, and there was no real Toronto receiver in the area. Corus Irvin almost had a free one there. Who was the pass to?
I'm not sure. I don't think Mike Faragelli can figure out right now who it was to. He's trying to look it up now on that chart there and see who was that thing going to.
So it'll be 2nd and 10. Argos have had a long afternoon in Baltimore after scoring the first touchdown of the game. Graves stands as his receiver.
Marvin Graves pass complete to
Jock Climbey.
You know, this is like I talked about a few moments ago, that a lot of guys in Baltimore's team are getting a chance to play, and the intensity level is picked up because they're going to want to see themselves tomorrow. You know, they'll be excited about watching this film. And Jason Bryant really drilled Climbey there.
On the far side, Mike Clemens tough to bring down. Alvin Walton finally does so.
You know, it's tough as a team. You know, Toronto, they just want to get this one over with and, you know, run enough plays to kill this 212 that's remaining. But Baltimore, they want to just go at it with you, you know, just keep pounding away at you. Toronto just wants to get this one over with.
2nd and 6, and that one behind Jock Climbey.
It's a good thing. Tracy Gravely was right there. He was headhunting.
Got a crowd.
Bradley on the coverage for the Stallions.
Can the Ottawa Rough Riders break out of their current slump against the Eskimos? Well, we'll find out tomorrow at Commonwealth.
Well, it's a pretty important game for Edmonton, too, with Hamilton winning last night. They're tied, you know, both at 6-3, so this is a chance for Edmonton to grab a win, and they'll tie themselves with the Stampeders and the BC Lions.
Gord Miller and Glenn Suter will have that one. Here's Baker for Chris Wright. And the Argos have done a good job of containing Wrights in the second half, but there was a couple of disastrous coverage breakdowns in the first. Heron Tate leading the tacklers that time, number 12. 7 yards on the return for Wright, and 1:53 on the clock. Crowley is back in at quarterback for the Baltimore Stallions, and he'd like to engineer a touchdown drive to watch back on the tapes tomorrow. Sean Jones managed 1 touchdown. Tracy Ham left the game with everything under control. And a big lead. Here's Robert Drummond. Or maybe 1. Stopped by Don Wilson.
I was talking to Joe Mosh yesterday, and we talked about, you know, the running game and what you might have to do to slow it down. And, you know, he said it's so tough because you got Pringle and Tui Piloto, and then all of a sudden you got Drummond and Chris Wright coming in the game, and you know, 132 is their average, and they went way over that. It's going to end up over maybe 200 yards in this game on the ground.
Crowley stands back and fires near the 50-yard line. No catch, but a marker down. Shannon Culver was the intended receiver.
I think Greg Eaglin, you know, he's a little frustrated out there, and as Mark Orlando went running down the field, Eaglin just grabbed him by the face mask and threw him to the ground. And I think that's what George Black's going to call it. You know, that's just kind of frustration at this point.
Major foul, face mask, Toronto number 13, first down.
So that'll keep the Stallion drive alive with 1:27 to go in the 4th quarter.
You know, as a player, you know, the game is over. Sometimes you just say, what the heck, I'm going to get one last shot in before I have to go home. I mean, there's nothing on the line now. You know, not that that's right, but he just took a shot at him anyway.
The standings will continue to show the Stampeders atop the Northern Division. Leaf mentioned Hamilton's big win over Winnipeg to move into a tie with Edmonton at 6-3. And Toronto will remain tied for the basement with Saskatchewan and Ottawa at 2-7. Baltimore moves to 7-3. And another game ahead of Birmingham, pending the outcome of a Birmingham battle against the Stampeders later tonight.
You know, it's funny, the playoff races, we're about the halfway point in the season, and, you know, it clearly looks like Calgary, BC, Hamilton, and Edmonton are, you know, going to fight it out for those 4 spots up there. But then the wild card, you know, there's still, you know, Winnipeg, Toronto, Ottawa, and Saskatchewan going for that wild card.
Please go away, huh? Go down. Come over here.
Crowley remains in at quarterback, or at least that is apparently the case. He's talking it over with the coach on the sidelines while an injured player is attended to. That's Robert Drummond, number 2, back on his feet. Long day for the Argos. Marvin Graves and the newcomer. Pat Coleman, number 82. Mike Paragelli saw his team get an early touchdown and one a little bit later, but they've never really been close to the Baltimore Stallions today.
No, I mean, it's been one of these games where, you know, Baltimore coming in, it was the better team, and they just were able to show it. I mean, they dominated the game, and it really hasn't been much of a, you know, second half. There hasn't been a lot of suspense in this one.
No, not from halftime on. 1st and 10, Baltimore at the 45 with a minute 27 to go. Finally at quarterback, and he's got a home run toss, airbound for Culver. Couldn't hang on. Shannon Culver caught one earlier. Frank Adams covering on Shannon Culver.
Culver did a nice job to hesitate and then stretch out at the last second. He got his hands on it. He was in behind Frank Adams. You know, you have to be patient on those kind of plays where you just kind of hang back, and at the last second accelerate out. He did everything right. He just couldn't make the catch.
2nd and 10 at the 45. Crowley to his left this time. It's tipped and intercepted, picked off by Greg Eaglin. So 13 is picked off by the Argos, number 13, on a deflection.
Well, it hit Tony Abilovich right in the chest. I mean, he couldn't even get out of the way of this one. Crowley doesn't see him, and Bo, watch this. He throws it. Bo hits Abilovich right there in the chest, and Eaglin gets the interception from the tip.
So a turnover coming a little bit late for the Argos with a minute 12 to go, and a score of 41-14. Graves remains in at quarterback. Here comes Peyton. He got it away. Jeff Fairholm the catch, and stepping out of bounds. Charles Anthony was covering on Fairholm, who was halfway to a first down. Alfred was coming around on the backside on Marvin Graves.
No, you look at Toronto, they had 12 days to prepare for this game. Lots of time to put any kind of schemes in that they wanted, and lots of practice time to develop them. And, you know, things just haven't worked out that well. I know Baltimore's a tough team to play, but I think at this point in time now Toronto's got to go back and just analyze what they have. Maybe they think their personnel is better than it really is. And, you know, I don't know what kind of decisions you're going to make. There's going to be a lot of players come free in the next few days from the National Football League when every team goes from 60 down to 53, and that means each team's going to be cutting 7 quality players. I don't know. You know, you have to really give your team a reassessment. Are they as good as we thought they were at the beginning of the season?
So it'll be 3rd down again. A minute to go. Graves limping after this.
That's a groin pull.
Yeah, stretched something there.
That's just what you need. I mean, you cut Eric White last week, and, you know, you're counting on maybe Marvin Graves to play, and all of a sudden he pulls up lame in the 4th quarter.
Baker standing back at his 30. He's lifted a couple of long ones today. This is Chris Wright, and he's returned a couple of long ones today. Stopped by P.J. Martin. 48 seconds to go. 52-yard kick and a 25-yard return.
You know, and some people may say, well, this guy's so valuable to the team. Why is he returning punts with only a minute to go? And, you know, I'll tell you why. Don Matthews, you know, we talked about him. He is a player's coach, and he knows the kind of day Chris Wright's having. He's leading the league in that department. So when things are going good, you might as well let him pad his totals. Come the end of the year, it might be not so easy to have some good returns against the team. So let him get it while he can.
I think it's a good point. When there are numbers like that on the line and a little bit of a title to go with it. Here's Mike Pringle back in the game with Robert Drummond on the sidelines and injured. Pringle took a bit of a break. Drummond went in, and that time Pringle was stopped by Calvin Tiggle.
You know, a lot of guys have bonuses in their contracts for certain things, and, you know, I'm sure Chris Wright has a bonus in his contract, and, you know, he wants to get those yards and pick up a little extra cash. You know, Toronto coming in was not a great rushing defense, and I think, well, nothing more illustrates than that. 211 on the ground and counting.
Pringle is still churning out the yard. Jeff Cummins on the tackle there. 19 seconds to go. Baltimore leads the CFL in average attendance at over 30,000,
Major foul, unnecessary roughness.
853 here today.
First down.
There's a few empty seats with this game comfortably in hand. 19 seconds to go. The penalty against the Argos marches off a few more yards. Baltimore on top, 41-14. This game really not in doubt since halftime.
1st and 10 Stallions from the 37-yard line.
Third string quarterback Crowley at the controls right now. And Pringle, the #1 running back, is still churning out the yards. Tony Obilovich made the tackle that time.
Tackle by Obilovich. Second down.
Still 10 seconds on the clock. Don Matthews and the Stallions are ready to rack up victory #7. This should be the last play of the ball game. A long afternoon for the Argos, even though they scored the first touchdown of the day. Matthews and the Stallions haven't really struggled, but the offense sputtered a little bit over the past couple of weeks. I think they found everything this afternoon, and everything is under control and A-OK.
Yeah, I think they were looking for a game to get everything back on track. You know, you're going to go through some peaks and valleys in your season. 18 games is an awfully long season, and they just had 2 bad weeks where they lost and 1 kind of so-so week where they squeaked out a win with Memphis. But, you know, I would think that Don Matthews and his entire coaching staff have to be just thrilled with the effort today on his team. I mean, talk about a game that they totally dominated. And, you know, you look at Tracy Ham's numbers, just kind of a typical Tracy Ham day. The running game, 220-odd yards, and I think everything kind of went according to plan for them.
Well, the Argos did get a couple of touchdowns, so there's a little something to beam about, but that's another loss, and there have been too many in this Argos season already. Let's get you back to CFL Control and Darren Detition.
Thanks very much, John and Leif. Once again, we are now at the midway mark of this Canadian Football League season, and who would have thought that the Toronto Argonauts would be 2-7? In fact, the Shreveport Pirates would have a better record than the Argos. Joining us right now was a big part of today's game, Alfred Payton, who was a defensive superstar out there. 5 sacks on the day. Alfred, you pretty much had your way with the offensive line of the Argos today. Alfred, can you hear us at this particular time?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. I was talking about your day today. You guys had a great game, yourself in particular, defensively with this Argo line.
Turn it down some. Turn my volume down.
Alfred?
Yeah.
We were just talking about the day you had defensively. 5 sacks. You pretty much had your way, as I said, with the Argos offensive line today.
Oh, thank you. Well, coming into the game, we needed to get pressure on the quarterback, and that was our main thing. And fortunately, I was able to get 5. A lot of times, you know, your teammates help y'all. And I like to give thanks to my teammates first for being, you know, helping me out, because without them, that wouldn't have been possible. You know, I'm happy with the win more than anything.
Well, you and Tim Caulfield have a pretty good battle going for the first part of this season. Thus far in '93, you led the Canadian Football League in sacks. You're leading once again. Tell us how tough, in general, as a team, are the Baltimore Stallions on defense?
I like to think we have a real good defense, and right now we're putting it together, and we need that kind of play out of everybody. We got O.J. Brigance, Jared Bayless, and the other guy, Grant Carter, on the other side with Pressberry in the middle also with Matt Goodman. So right now we coming together, and we playing real good football on defense. And you know, we just need to come out here and play with that kind of intensity each week, in and out. You know, and we'll win a lot of ball games if we can continue to play with that kind of intensity.
Well, your defense was dancing today. You were dancing. We saw the sack dad a multitude of times. Thanks very much, Alfred. We appreciate you taking the time. Once again, Alfred Payton, a member of the winning Baltimore Stallions today, as they improved their record to 6-3 on the season. And I think that's somewhat surprising as well. I wouldn't have been, I guess, startled to say that Baltimore would be 7-2 at this point in time, possibly even 8-1. They are that strong. We're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. We are back with more in a few moments. 41-14 is your final. The Stallions win big today.
CFL Live on TSN. Brought to you by All Sport. The new All Sports drink for athletes. All Sport. The game will never be the same. And by Bell Advantage Long Distance Services, from the Alliance of Canada's only full-service telecommunications companies.
Well, where do the Argos go from here? They've lost again, 41-14, 2 wins and 7 losses on the season, and I'm not sure what to suggest they might be doing.
Well, I don't know. Their worst fears came true this afternoon, John, because Baltimore is a team that can really, when they get on a roll, dominate a team, and that's exactly what happened to Toronto. And, you know, I don't know if that's a barometer of how bad Toronto is or how good Baltimore is. I think it's kind of halfway in between.
A little bit of both there.
Look, Ken Austin had good numbers, but let's face it. I mean, you're counting on him to make big plays, and Baltimore made a lot of big plays today. Toronto maybe just had a few. So, you know, yeah, the percentage was good, but Toronto's not getting the big plays out of that offense, and unless that changes, you know, I don't see them beating the teams in the upper echelon. They may squeak into the playoffs with, you know, Saskatchewan, Ottawa, and those teams, but if they want to challenge the bigger teams, they got to sort out their offense and make it an offense that gets it down the field a little better.
Anyway, the Argos lose one more. That's the 4th straight loss for the Argos, and the Baltimore Stallions look like they're ready to roar.
Thanks very much, gentlemen. Once again, the Argos are now 2-7. Talked to Al Ford, the general manager of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, earlier this week. His team was in a precarious position as well. He said that if they didn't win against Ottawa, they were going to make major changes. You have to wonder if the Argos and Bobo Bilovich will do the same. On to our game story. Baltimore pretty much had their way with them today. 225 yards rushing. Pringle with a great game. Tracy Ham, another strong day at the office. Our next game comes to you tomorrow from Commonwealth Stadium. The Eskimos, home to the Ottawa Roughriders. It is a 4:30 Eastern start. Make sure you stay tuned to TSN. Sports Desk is coming up next with Rod Smith. He'll have all the scores and highlights, followed by the Montreal Expos and the San Francisco Giants. That's a 7:30 start Eastern time. On behalf of John, Leaf, and myself, thanks for watching this afternoon. That'll do it from Toronto.